This is ABC Sports coverage of the 2024 AFL Premiership season
on ABC Radio,
ABC Sport Digital, and take us with you on the ABC Listener.
Look for the AFL button.
It's the Swans and the Bombers at the SCG, with Sydney hoping to go 3-0 to start 2024, and if so, leap for at least tonight to the top of the AFL ladder. They were oh so impressive in their first two games of the year. Can that continue? Well, the Bombers fans will be hoping that the Essendon edge remains. They showed plenty of that against the Hawks with a 24-point win in their opening game of the season. Two unbeaten sides going head-to-head. Great you could join us wherever you're listening on ABC Sport. Clint Wilton with you alongside Daniel Garb. We'll hear from him in just a moment. Our experts tonight, former Swan and Eagle Callum Sinclair, and Brisbane Lions best and fairest twice indeed winner with Joel Patfull. Gents, in 45 seconds or so, let us know how's this one played out. Cal, far away.
I'm very excited for tonight's game, and you can just see that the Swans, they're just setting that team up beautifully already for September. The brand they're playing is very, very good to see, and I think with Essendon, we spoke off air, Joel, a little bit. We don't know where they're at, to be brutally honest, but they're getting competitive. Brad Scott keeps talking about standards, so we'll wait and see.
They have. The Swans have had the perfect start to the year, but for me, it's Essendon's ball movement. Last week, they were sharp, quick and exciting. But here at the SCG, it's a contested game of footy, so they're going to be tested in that tonight.
There is one late change for the Bombers. Jake Kelly is out through illness. Alan Davey Jr. comes in, and they had to remove Darcy Parish earlier on as well. Didn't quite get up from the hamstring problem. That means Hobb came into the side. That was yesterday. Parish not travelling for the Bombers. We'll get the benches and find out what it's like downstairs at the SCG. Poppy Penny on the boundary for us in just a moment, but there's a good crowd in for what should be a cracker. Live footy on ABC Sport. Let's get things started. Here's Daniel Garb.
It's Papley, Warner and Heaney in the middle of the ground for the Swans. Merritt, Setterfield and Perkins for the Bombers. Sam Draper in for his first game of the season, up against Brodie Grundy of Sydney. Merritt gets first hands on it and wins the first clearance for Essendon. They go inside 50, and it's a mark by Gresham. Excellent start, Essendon. Clean win out of the middle by Zach Merritt. Gresham on a fast lead, and he'll kick from 45 out, 45-degree angle.
Tell you what, not much Harry Cunningham can do with that kick coming out of that centre bounce. That was a terrific kick.
So Jade Gresham, who kicked a goal in his new colours in the win over Hawthorn in his Bombers debut last week. The leading goal kicker for St Kilda in 2018. Can he give Essendon the perfect start? He runs around on his right. It curls around beautifully, straight over the umpire's hat.
They're all in.
What a start by the Bombers. They all come for Jade Gresham. They are one straight six inside the opening minute. The Swans yet to touch the footy.
Well, you said it, Garb. It's the perfect start. Tap down from the ruck. Perfect kick. Gresham on the lead and finished well. Can't ask for much more. Keep the crowd out of it from the start, and we're off and away.
Absolutely, and you feel like Essendon, they're just a bit of a confidence team as well, particularly playing away and how the Swans have kind of started the year. It's exactly what they need. Probably just important to note the ruck duel, Draper v Grundy. Grundy hasn't been jumping the first couple of weeks of the year. He seems to be having a strategy of just kind of crossing the line and not letting the other ruckman get off the ground. So interesting to see what tactic he has with Draper for this game.
It's an excellent beginning if you're an Essendon supporter. For you to be with us here on Live Footy on ABC Sport. Bombers with the opening goal in the first 60 seconds. Shocking bounce. They should bring it back, and they will, which gives us a chance to go downstairs. Poppy Petty's on the boundary. Welcome, Poppy. What's it like down there?
There's not much of a breeze. It's a beautiful night. The starting benches just quickly: Hayden McLean, Braden Campbell, James Jordan and Matt Roberts for the Swans. And for the Bombers, Ben Hobbs, Todd Goldstein, Xavier Dersma and Jai Menzies.
Bombers get the clearance again. Draper out to Merritt. Kicks the right half forward. Caldwell marks. Has it for the Bombers. Looks to play on by a hand. They'll set up through Merritt. Kicks inside forward 50. One-on-one battle at the top of the goal square. Umpire spots a free kick going Essendon's way. They'll go back and have a shot from just about point-blank range here, Essendon. 45-degree angle to the left. They should be able to get their second in a matter of minutes. It'll come off the boot of Nick Cox, who's the player infringed.
Tell you what, just looking at it now, it's not a bad little forward line Essendon have got. Stringer, Wright, Cox.
Langford, of course, their leading goal kicker last season.
Nick Cox looking for his first goal of 2024 from no more than 20 out. He puts it through. It's all Essendon in the opening 3 minutes at the SCG. They've stunned the Swans early on. They've had 7 disposals. Sydney haven't touched the footy and they lead by 12 points. Two straight 12 to Sydney, yet to score. Live footy on ABC Sport.
Well, it just shows how important those centre bounce clearances are here at the SCG. One quick kick and you're inside 50, but what the Essendon forwards have been able to do as well is isolate the Sydney defenders. So they're one-on-one contests up on the outside 50, kick it in deep to a one-on-one contest as well where they start to get a bit nervous. You know those Swan defenders, they love to zone off, they love to protect space, and they love to help each other out, but quick ball movement like that, they haven't been able to.
I've just seen Brett Kirk go out to the midfield, then deliver a message. I know exactly what that message would have been, and it's not appropriate to share on ABC Sport, guys.
Well, it might be along the lines of, please stop Zach Merritt. He's had 3 disposals straight away. The Swans haven't had a touch yet. Finally, they've had one. It's a scrappy kick from Brodie Grundy. Just threw it on his boot in the middle of the ground. Now Lloyd and Hine jostle for it. Can the Swans get something going? Papley paddles it forward and then sockers it off the ground. Inside 50 they go finally. Perkins, though, able to clear. And now they can work it up the wing through Durham. The Bombers, that's a big hit. Peter Wright on Harry Cunningham, and Cunningham hasn't moved. And the crowd does not like that. This could be a big story. The umpire might have to stop play here because the trainer has come out to Harry Cunningham, who was in the vicinity of the football. He has been lined up by Peter Wright, and Harry Cunningham's evening may well be over. This is not a good sight. Let's go down to Poppy Penny on the boundary.
Corey Warner immediately starting to warm up on the boundary line. It looks as though he's taking that training top off immediately. So there's a scrap in the middle, but it doesn't look like Harry Cunningham's coming back on.
Well, Lamele's broken out. The Swans understandably furious with that hit from Peter Wright on Harry Cunningham, and there's about 15 players or so who are wrestling at centre half forward. It's starting to dissipate now, but what a start to this football game.
They've called for the stretcher for Harry Cunningham. Straight away, surrounded by 3 of the trainers. Wright suggesting he wasn't doing anything wrong, but the reaction was instantaneous from Sydney. I missed that. Might see a replay again in just a moment. Again, there's push and shove between the 2 sets of players out in the middle of the ground. So there's plenty of feeling early on. Whether or not it was just a contest for the football. Did you see it, Garby?
Yeah, he's jumped up to meet the footy. Cunningham's backing into him. And then he's turns his shoulder for the hip and shoulder. The problem is he's left the ground. And he's seen Cunningham coming towards him, realised he couldn't mark it. If he stays on the ground, it's not as serious. The fact that he's left the ground, as we know, that's when the problem comes into it, along with the sad state we see right now, which is Harry Cunningham in the hands of trainers on the wing. Both teams have now broken into their respective huddles as they wait for the stretcher to come out.
It's one of those tough ones, isn't it? It's probably a 60-40 ball. He was a step behind. He probably wasn't going to make it there, but had to try and make some sort of contest. He's like you said, he's left the ground though. That's probably the issue there. If he'd stayed on the ground, made a contest, he might have been okay. But
so I ask you both, from what we've seen, the change in the rules, which was brought in with the Brayshaw-Maynard collision from last year, when we think that would now have seen Maynard suspended. And at the time, I thought he hadn't broken a rule, but they've changed that. The responsibility being with the player, if you go for the ball and you don't get there and you make contact, which is what Wright has done, is he in trouble right now?
Looking at that, I think he is in trouble. Looking at that incident, I can definitely see a grey area. If I take my mind back to actually watching that incident live, I can kind of see the grey area. I don't think he came in with that, I guess, aggressive intent to obviously make that impact on Cunningham, but I think just the way the league's going with this, I think he's going to get it at least a week or 2.
Yeah, I mean, I thought live that he had made the contest, but watching the slow-mo,
it looks bad in slow-mo.
It does brace for contact.
Yeah,
exactly.
It does. Yeah.
And that's the problem for Peter Wright as we stand.
Yeah, I think
in that they've changed the law. Last year, that's an awful thing, and we feel the best, and we hope that everybody's okay. With the change in the laws, I think he's in real trouble here, right?
The good news is Harry Cunningham got up. He was responsive to his teammates. He was smiling at one stage. I was looking down on him with binoculars. Now he's sitting at the front of the stretcher. A standing ovation from the Sydney faithful. He's been a warrior for this football club across 188 games. Came back into the team last season, played every game of the campaign, and some people perhaps had written him off.
Yeah.
It's sad that he leaves the game so early.
They certainly did write him off in 2022, but he had a great response in 23, and he's been playing his role beautifully at the start of the season, so disappointing for him.
So he'll go get checked. The likelihood is he'll be subbed out of the game. Corey Warner, as Poppy Penny told us, has the tracksuit top off and is ready to come on, but they'll wait for the final word from the medical staff.
I just staggered to think he's coming back.
Yeah. He's gone.
He was out cold as he hit the ground then, Cunningham. Just wait for the ball to be given back to Rowbottom, and the cheer you heard was Peter Wright being shoved on a couple of Swans.
This is going to be a test for Peter Wright as well, if he can kind of regather himself mentally. We're all human. No one wants to see another opponent or your own teammate go down like that, but can he there's a lot of footy to be played now. Can he kind of keep it together for the remainder of the game?
That's the voice of Callum Sinclair, former Eagle and Swan. Alongside him in the expert chair today, Joel Pat Fuller, former dual winner, Brisbane Lions best and fairest. Eventually the ball will come back to Rowbottom here. He'll have it on centre wing. Commentary side of the SCG. Swans kicking to the right of our broadcast position in this quarter. Here goes Rowbottom, long and high. He'll land just inside forward 50. Amati, was he being held? No, it's at the back. It's going the way of Grundy. The line of 4. It's Grundy who's been given the free kick against Draper. He'll stand just outside the forward 50 for Sydney. Chance to get their second inside 50 of the evening. Draper goes back to stand on the mark. Brodie Grundy looks like he's going to go for goal. Pulls up the right side. Brodie Grundy spinning the ball over in his hand. Looking for his first goal in Sydney colours. Here he comes. Former Collingwood, former Demon player. Kicks from 51 metres out. It won't quite have the carry. They fly from everywhere and then rushed over. Nick Martin making sure it's tapped through for a rush behind. Sydney's first score of the game comes at the 10-minute mark. The Bombers 2 straight, 12. The Swans 1 behind.
What an eventful first quarter so far at the SCG. The Bombers had kicked 2 goals before the Swans had had a disposal. Harry Cunningham ironed out on the wing. Subbed out of the game. Corey Warner set to come on. Peter Wright in a fair bit of trouble with the match review officer. Boundary throw in inside 50 for Sydney. Sam Draper plucks it out of the ruck, throws it on the boot. Bouncing ball in the middle of the SCG. Errol Goulden gets hands on it, but they swarm on him. A couple of Bombers. Gresham, who kicked the first goal of the game, and Caldwell. Their tackling was elite against Hawthorn last week, and they wrapped up Goulden straight away.
Thrown up in the middle, taken clean possession from Draper. Gets a hurried kick away, the middle of the ground. Only as far though as the Swans through Blake. He goes on a run to the outer side. Gets a little 1-2. Hand pass, missed Chad Warner. Sat there for Durham. Gathers for the Bombers. Hand passes to right. Running by Caldwell. You'll hear the booing all night from the Swans fans. Kicks inside forward 50 and marked on the lead by Langford. He turns around and heads to the right full forward position. Stringer couldn't mark. Brings it to ground. Surrounded by Swans. Got a kick away. It was smothered. Sydney can mop up. They've done oh so well. Milliken into the right back pocket and marking there McInerney hard up against the boundary for Sydney.
Not sure Langford made the right decision there, choosing to play on to Stringer in the pocket. Could have gone back and slotted that from about 45 out. There will be a boundary throw in left forward pocket for Essendon. That ball had crossed the boundary line, but not sure that was the right decision.
Nah, certainly wasn't. I can definitely see why Jake Stringer's eyes lit up, but I think if he had his time again, he'd be having a shot on goal.
Ball spun back into play. Inside the Bombers forward 50. Draper trying to take clean possession. Couldn't quite get hold of it. The ball hacked away towards the boundary line. Will it be deliberate? It will. Been pinged there, Errol Goulden.
He's had 3 clearances out of the stoppages there, Draper. Seems to be manhandling Grundy a bit.
Nick Martin to have it at left half forward for Essendon, who lead by 11 points. 12 gone in the first. He'll put it towards full forward for Essendon. They all go up. Wright got hands to it. Knocked away by the Swans. They haven't been able to clear the area yet. Conch hand pass back into traffic. Rowbottom couldn't gather. Campbell could, and he got it onto Blakey. Kicks into the left back pocket for Sydney.
It's a ball to a contest, and the Bombers win it back. Perkins threw it on the boot. Excellent smother, though, from Goulden. Only as far as Hind, though, as the Swans try to clear defensive 50. Now Merritt assesses his options. On the left, looks for a man in the lead. Big leap from Stringer. Couldn't bring it down. Campbell with composure. Brings it away from defensive 50 and has a bounce. Switches it to Warner. Now the Swans fans are up and about. To centre half forward, he picks out McDonald. And Logan McDonald will go back, has a look at some options. There's a couple of men free in the pocket. One of them is Goulden. And Errol Goulden will kick from 30 out on a tight angle. In fact, he kicks backwards. It's like pass the parcel inside attacking 50 for the Swans. And Hayward eventually has it on a better angle, 45 metres out.
Well, that's the footy we've seen from the Swans the last 2 weeks. Turnover at half-back, run and carry through the middle, hit a target up forward, quick and precise, and beautiful ball movement.
There's the change of direction there from Braden Campbell off the half-back flank. Just completely opened up the game, and Errol Goulden just holding his width. Never gets manned up. It's bizarre.
Will Hayward, Mr. Consistent of the Sydney Swans forward line. That's a lovely effort, straight through the middle. Sydney's on the board, 1-1-7. The Bombers 2 straight 12. And we have gone 14 and a half in the first quarter at the SCG.
Certainly a great passage of play, and that's going to do wonders for Sydney's confidence. Very selfless there by Errol Goulden. Just interesting seeing Sam Draper and Brodie Grundy in that ruck contest. Brodie Grundy is not the... he's definitely not the weakest ruckman in the competition. He's got a fair bit of size behind him as well, but Draper just seems absolutely enormous at the moment. He's ruffling him around all over the place, and Todd Goldstein and Hayden McLean now in there for this first in advance of the game.
Let's go downstairs. Poppy Penny on the boundary.
Yeah, Corey Warner's in for his first minutes of the game. He got a bit of advice from Callum Mills on the interchange bench. He's sitting on the bench today just before he went on.
Change course with Cunningham out of the game. Nasty collision with Wrights short time ago. No clearance here from either side. Still down to Rowbottom, who gathered it and was taken to ground in a strong tackle. Wrapping him up, throwing up again. Still no ruck got anywhere near it. Caldwell going through, was tackled, spilled out to Goulden. Hurry kick forward, only as far as McGrath. His kick, this is kick to kick. Found Blakey, worked it onto Florent. Short pass, not far enough to be a mark. Campbell has to run away from Sardis. Kicks towards the outer side of the ground. Decent battle out here. Bombers have numbers and they win possession of the footy. Caldwell to Dersma, inside forward 50. It comes now to Gresham, pops it over the top, Langford marks, and this time he has a shot at goal and he kicks it. Oh, he smashed that through at a roundabout post. Well, when I say the top of the padding on the post height, and they're going to go upstairs to see whether or not it got touched on the line. He reckons he kicked it.
It's an interesting decision, though, Joel, where he marked that footy.
Well, he doesn't seem keen to have a set shot tonight, does he? He's played on that last one and he's kicked a check side from 20 metres out, which is a interesting decision, but looks like it's gone through.
They're wondering whether or not Rampy nearby has been able to stick out his left boot. Has it flicked it on the way through? Not seeing anything conclusive.
Would have had to graze the stud of Rampy's.
Even still, it's just a bizarre decision to kick that.
I wonder if he thought it was touched on the way through to him. Oh. That could be the only explanation for playing on so quickly from that angle, but it's worked out well, we think, at least.
The old school forwards, the Jason Dunstalls, the Locketts and the Careys would absolutely hate that decision from Langford.
Score review. So you wait to see. Here's a goal. Yeah. Well, it was interesting because before we thought he would go back and have a shot, didn't, and then Sydney were able to clear. This time it was almost like, well, I'm having a ping no matter what because there was a player in Menzies standing all on his own in the goal square.
They're coach killers, those things. You can just imagine the Scott in the box there, just hand over the mouth.
They've got their third, Essendon, 3 straight 18 to Sydney's 1-1-7, 17 gone in the first term. Live footy on ABC Sport. Clint Wilden alongside Daniel Garb, our experts Callum Sinclair and Joel Patfull.
Cole Langford, 51 goals last season. What a move to make him a permanent forward. What a start by the Bombers. 3 straight 18. The Swans 1-1-7, 17 minutes gone in the first quarter. Hayden McLean pinch hitting in the ruck for the Swans. Gets hands on it. James Rowbottom, who had 12 tackles last week in the win over Collingwood. Wrapping up Ben Hobbs. Late inclusion for Darcy Parish. Couldn't get up for this game. Picked up by Braden Campbell, who's having an influence for Sydney. Warner, quick hands to Roberts, who is mowed down. And mowed down beautifully by Jai Menzies. The quick handball to McGrath. Essendon go inside 50 again. The target is right. Tries to get it at the second bite. Melican kept his feet well. Then lost the footy. A shout for holding the ball. Bombers win it back. Xavier Dersma to McGrath. High ball into a dangerous spot in attack. Top of the square. Blakey's there. Elects to punch. It bounces away to the pocket. Corey Warner, the sub on. Couldn't get a clean touch. Eventually it spills the way of Chad Warner.
And Chad Warner back to Blakey just outside his defensive goal square. That's a lovely kick. Beautiful precision. He was able to get onto Goulden, who marks in the left back pocket. Moves it by hand to Papley. Chad Warner runs by and receives the hand pass again. He kicks the logo on the outer side of the ground. And again a chance to build up here. McInerney, or beg your pardon, McLean with it. And Hayden McLean goes short again to Blakey. Marks on the outer edge of the centre square. Brings it into the middle of the ground. A chance for Roberts to assess what's in front of him. There's no Swan behind him. He's a couple of metres from halfway on the SCG. Looks to move it short again. Chance to build up. There's Florence. Sends it deep inside forward 50. 2-on-2 battle. Swans fly. Marty got a hand to it. Mackay was there defensively. Got it away towards Heppel, and he'll kick into the left back pocket. Sardis marks there for Essendon, who lead by 11 points. 19 gone in the first.
Sardis' kick is well executed. Finds Sam Durham. Left half back for the Bombers. He heads up the wing. Tom McCartan gets in front of Peter Wright, who cops a hip and shoulder from Nick Blakey, and the boos from the Swans fans. They will ring out all night for Peter Wright after he ironed out Harry Cunningham inside the first 10 minutes of the first term. Cunningham out of the game. Corey Warner, the sub, on for Sydney. McLean and Draper. Two number twos fall to the ground in the ruck contest. The free kick goes the way of Draper on the wing.
They can be angry all they want, Sydney, but that was a definite free kick for Draper.
Ripped to the ground he was, and then gave it to Martin. Moves it to Setterfield, who puts the Bombers towards left half forward. There's no mark in a pack of 6, and McCartan's happy to see it over the line for a throw-in. About 48 out from the Bombers attacking goal. To the left of our broadcast position, Essendon, in his first turn. They've kicked 3 goals to 1-1. They lead by 11 points. We head into time on. First quarter. Front position, Goldstein won it down for Essendon to Stringer. Gave it to Sardis. Kicks up in the air, and a good mark defensively to Milliken for Sydney. He looks to flare it out, and Hayward marks deep in the left back pocket.
Getting a foothold in this game now, the Swans. The kick from Hayward finds Papley on the outer wing. Marking overhead. They're happy to just slow it down a touch at the moment, Sydney, and just regain some control of this match. They trail by 11 points. Up to half forward. Falls the way of Heaney, who's been quiet so far after a blistering first 2 weeks of the season. Free kick goes the way of Hayward. He's kicked Sydney's only goal. At centre half forward, guides one for the lead of McLean, but dropping in front of him was Jake Stringer, marking at centre half back for Essendon.
Flares it to the outer side. High and drops the mark he should have taken. Takes a big chunk out of the turf as well. He's able to regather. Pops in the direction of Gresham. Blakey coming the other way. Got a fist to the footy. Only as far as McGrath. Threw it on the boot towards centre half forward. Gresham was able to work it away to the side to Setterfield. Now onto Langford, who snaps around the body from 48 out. That's a ripper for his seconds. No doubt with that from Kyle Langford. That's a huge goal for both him and for the Bombers. They've got their fourth. 4 straight 24 to lead by 17 points over the Swans, who are 1-1-7, 22 gone in the first. Live footy on ABC Sport. Our experts, Callum Sinclair and Joel Patfull.
Well, it's a fair goal, isn't it? And it's come off the back of turnovers. They've been really pressing that Swans defence. They're finding it hard to get out of the back 50, turning over through the middle of the ground as well. So when they turn it over, there's plenty of space out the back, and those Essendon forwards are really working hard. I talked about the contested footy at the SCG, and Essendon's really bringing it. If not, they're matching Sydney. If not, they're better at them in the contested footy at the moment. So, ready for a big game. They really are stepped up, haven't they?
I've never seen an Essendon team more, I guess, their reaction times and their quick feet have been a real highlight.
22 minutes gone in the first turn. The Bombers 4 straight 24. The Swans 1-1-7. Grundy wins it out of the middle. His low ball inside 50 is spilled defensively by Essendon, but they regain it. Bounces off Goldstein, though. And McInerney is first there. Goes back to James Jordan. Sends it long to the top of the square. McLean couldn't mark. Under pressure from Nick Cox. Did well, the youngster. And then got hands on the footy. McLean puts a good contest in, though. It spills the way of Sydney. Campbell tracks it back. Still inside his attacking 50. Centres it on his left. Heaney's there, as is Jordan. Look for the quick handball, Jordan to Heaney. Heaney's got it on his left. The kick on goal is a scrappy one. Bounces at the top of the defensive goal square for Essendon. Heppel's there. And eventually they work it out to Nick Hines in the back pocket. The Swans are claiming that Hines dropped the mark, and the umpire agrees with them. So a ball up, right forward pocket for Sydney. The Swans pushing, but the Bombers held on strongly in a defensive sense.
Throwing up into the air. Grundy won it down. Summers gets the kick away after McGrath gave it to him by hand. It'll land in the centre square. Group over this and trying to hustle his way forward before he was tackled with Jordan for the Swans. Just shy of the attacking edge of the centre square. Throwing aloft again. Goldstein gave a little tap into the back of Grundy. Still down to Merritt. Got it to McGrath. Kicks the Bombers towards centre wing commentary side. Looking to soccer it forward. That's cleverly done. And racing onto it, Milliken with the soccer. And then the gather and a beautiful delivery towards right half forward. And then McDonald marks. Logan McDonald. Too far out to score himself. Beautiful bit of play though from Milliken. Deserved the applause. McDonald kicks it towards the hot spot. Players come from everywhere. Big fly Hayward couldn't mark. Heppel spun out of a tackle. Nicely worked from the Bombers. Gave it to Perkins, but then he turns it over. Marked at left half forward for the Swans by Roberts.
Matt Roberts, the rising star from the opening round, looks towards the pocket. Excellent lead and marked by Hayward. Just jumped at the perfect time to get his body in front of Dyson Heppel and marked on his chest. He's kicked the only goal for the Swans so far. We'll try and make it two from the most difficult of angles in the left forward pocket for Sydney.
Tell you what, both teams' transition running into defence has been quite impressive. You're just looking at Essendon now.
Hayward runs around on the snap. It's curling. Fantastic goal, Will Hayward. Arms outstretched. He has been the man in the first term for the Swans. He's got two. Sydney a 2-1-13. Essendon a 4 straight 24. And Will Hayward, he does this every now and again when he takes charge of quarters or so for Sydney. He's doing that at the moment.
He certainly does, and it is a contract year for Will Hayward as well. So you always kind of dial up your best efforts for contract year, Joel. But no, you are right, Jobs. He probably gets. It's a hard, as Joel, you know, that high half forward role. It's hard to play, particularly if someone of his size and how he plays. You do a lot of unrewarded running, so every now and then he probably gets, you know, he's not in games from a statistics point of view. But I think the Swans really do value what he does off the ball, and when he gets that reward for effort, he gets to put some through the big sticks. But tonight he's everywhere, taking a few marks up the ground, and he's getting dangerous inside 50, so he's been super.
That can't be true. We're continually told players don't think about contracts. That's what they always say. Every interview downstairs, I'm not thinking about that.
I thought about it every minute.
I bet. I'll just let my footy do the talking as the Bombers get the clearance and they get it away to Setterfield, just on the outer edge of the centre circles. Draper puts it inside forward 50 on the bounce. Langford lurking, can't quite get there. Slapped away, last line of defence from Sydney. Scooped up again by Essendon. Came to Caldwell. Clever hand pass from Hobbs. Kicks high up in the air towards full forward. And McCartan's happy to rush it over the line. Standing next to him, Goldstein. Rushed behind. First blemish. The Bombers score. 4-1-25 to Sydney's 2-1-13. 26 gone in the first.
The Bombers leading by a clean 2 goals. Rampy has it at left half back. This kick is a dangerous one. Heppel picks it up, but then he couldn't connect with the handball in the middle of the ground. It gets shoveled all the way back to Ollie Florent. Throws it on his boot. And it's marked by Xavier Dersma. The new Bomber, after 70-odd games for Port Adelaide. In fact, it's Setterfield there. I apologise. They do look quite similar. Setterfield has marked it and then found Ben Hobbs at right half forward. Hobbs will kick a high ball to the right forward pocket. Draper and Grundy are there, and Grundy punches it over for a boundary throw-in. So it loomed as a big early season litmus test for Essendon. In fact, it's out of the full, so it'll be a free kick to the Swans. Just to see where they're at. They're one of those teams in the middle rung of the ladder in terms of expectations. My goodness, they've started nicely.
been thoroughly entertaining to watch as City try to work it beyond their defensive 50. They can't do so. Essendon put it back in the direction of Langford, then hacked out of trouble by Heaney. That's remarkable. Hacked it out of mid-air and found Papley in the centre of the ground. He'll send it deep. Chance here at full forward for McDonald in marks. 25 out from goal, 45-degree angle to the right. Now, whether that was just luck or good management or whatever it was, but from Heaney to set that up by just throwing the boot at it, the Swans have gone straight up the middle and they'll get a shot at goal.
Regardless of whether he marked that or not, you can't take away. Territory game is extremely important. You've actually seen Essendon do that a little bit. They've hacked it forward a few times tonight. Just puts them under a fair bit of pressure. Luckily, it paid off with Cupper taking a nice mark.
21-year-old Logan McDonald, 5-2 for the season so far. And he misses to the right-hand side. Looked okay off the boot. Not to be. Another behind. 2-2-14 Sydney, 4-1-25. Essendon, 28 gone in the first.
Here's Nick Martin with kicking duties for the Bombers. A 1-2 with Zach Merritt. He's put Hobbs under a bit of pressure. Just outside defensive 50 is wrapped up by Papley. Papley looks to get it back now. Overrunning it was Wicks. The Swans still have it. Heaney sold some candy, went in board to Wicks. Now to Corey Warner. Warner on his left to sub. Just fades across the face in search of his first AFL goal. It's through for a behind from the brother of Chad. And the margin is back to 10 points in favour of the Bombers.
Durham has it in the left back pocket for Essendon. Steps around Goulden under pressure. Gets a kick away hard up against the boundary right underneath it. You can always tell for the rest of tonight when he goes anywhere near the football. Blakey spoils it over the line for a throw-in. Sydney fans letting Peter Wright know of how unhappy they are with the incident that saw Harry Cunningham having to be subbed out. We'll talk more about that as the game progresses. Grundy, front position, won it down with McInerney. Here's Heaney, gets a kick away under pressure from right half forward, kicks the full forward. Stretchy McLean couldn't mark. Papley is out after it. Martin got a hurry kick away only as far as Florent. Gresham got him. Ball jarred out. Well done, Papley. Hand pass over the shoulder to Haywood. Comes again. A chance for Lloyd to set things up. Wasn't quite the kick he wanted. Dersma overran it. Sliding onto it, McGrath couldn't quite pick it up either. Corey Warner missed it. There it didn't. Picked it up for the Bombers. Now to Gresham. Gives it to Langford. He'll spear it down the outer wing. Great kick. Marked on centre wing by Langford for the Bombers.
It was Caldwell who kicked at the former Giant. Langford with a couple of goals in the first term. Goes down the boundary line to right half forward. McCartan just worked Peter Wright under the football. Stringer with strength. He's caught holding the ball. Tried to hold his grounds. Grundy is as big as they come for the Swans. Beat him in that contest. In the pocket, Blakey switches it to Errol Goulden. Just send it up the wing for Warner, who marks and hits the ground running. Checks inside on Durham. And inboard, close to the logo for McInerney. Guides it further forward to Heaney. The game on the Swans' terms now. Goulden runs around on his left, sends it long, looking for McLean and finding him. Champagne footy, Sydney. They work that all the way around from the outer side through the hands of some of their biggest names, Warner, Goulden, Heaney, and it ends up with McLean, who'll kick from 15 out on a slight angle.
What about the run from Goulden to come out of defence where he was involved? He called for it 3 times, got it eventually, and then delivered an extra set missile.
It's true, but equally as well, Chad Warner's confidence to just, he was out, but literally just to go, nah, I just want to pull this inside. Wish that change of direction is just very envious.
Hayden McLean, 4 goals for the season now for him, and the Swans third tonight. Just working their way back into this game. They are 3-3-21 Sydney. Essendon 4-1-25, leading by 4 points late stages of the first quarter at the SCG.
And that's why Chad Warner can wear those boots.
Yeah. We talked about it before the game. We liked the boots last week, but you're right. When you can do stuff like that, you can wear whatever boots you want. But 3 of Sydney's big movers there, Heaney, Warner and Goulden getting involved. And the ball movement there was so precise. But it's like you said before, Cow, who's playing on Goulden out there? How's he allowed to run from the back 50 through the middle, get involved 2 or 3 times and then deliver inside 50 with no one really around him? So we'll keep an eye on that.
It's bizarre. It's a remarkable run. Just stunning. Poppy Penny is downstairs for us. Poppy?
Yeah, just an update on Harry Cunningham. He's got a concussion, but he's doing well. He's up talking and walking, and the player welfare team with Sydney are down with his family and friends and things like that.
First bounce was a rise, so we'll ball it up. Pause for a moment. Draper against McLean. Draper won it down. Pick it up immediately, eventually. And it does, count. And then free kick's been spotted here and upended out of all of that will be Heaney. He'll have the ball back just behind the centre circles. He'll stab the pass forward. We're back pretty much where we were. Chad Warner who has it. Heaney runs by, receives the hand pass, kicks inside forward 50, couldn't find a target. Intercept mark coming the way of Mackay, who has it in the right back pocket for the Bombers, who still lead by 4, 33 gone in the first.
Well, a slow start to the game, Isaac Heaney. All of a sudden he's up to 10 disposals. Sums up the form of the man at the minute. 19 of a possible 20 coaches' votes in the first 2 rounds. The Bombers off half-back through high, and that's a dangerous kick coming across with Roberts. Intercepted, punched it forward. McDonald is chasing it. Just outside attacking 50 for Sydney. Left half forward, looks for Amati. It was a kick to a contest, but Amati's won the free kick anyway. Under pressure from Laverde, pops one high. And Amati will kick from 45 out in the slight angle, left half forward.
Well, it's a good turnover from the Swans to the middle of the ground, but I think if you're Brad Scott there, maybe you're just advising your players to maybe stick to the boundary a little bit more there. They're 2 minutes to go. They've had a great quarter, but to pick that one off 50 metres through the middle is slightly ambitious, I think.
Joel Amati goes the snap from 45 out and kicks it. It's the new way of things in the AFL. Doesn't matter how far out you are. A lot of players prefer the snap. And the Amati party certainly does as well. All of a sudden, Sydney are in the lead. 4-3-27. Essendon 4-1-25 after the Bombers kicked the first 2 of the game.
One thing Sydney have done really well, particularly after probably the first 10 minutes of the game, is they're helping each other get into the game. So you've seen guys like Warner, Blakey, Goulden, McDonald, Papley, Florent. They've all played a number of years together now. They've realised they're getting each other into the game and it's helping us getting them back on the scoreboard. 12 months ago, Goulden might have probably blazed away and had a shot there outside 50, but nah, Amati hasn't had much of the footy. Let's get him into the game.
Big shout out to Steve, who sends us a text. Doing a good job, guys, keeping one pram happily pushed around Como. Glad we could do that for you, Steve. Thanks for listening in. You're on live footy on ABC Sport as Draper wins the tap down. Well, lets things play. No, there's a non-controlling umpire that spotted a free kick. It's coming back here for Essendon. Perkins will have it. The bright pink boots on. Stops and props. Now we'll send it through the centre circles. Kicks long inside, attacking 50 for Essendon. No one takes a mark. Durham goes over the top of the football. He can't gather. Grundy emerges with it. Got a strong hand pass away. Lloyd's able to hack it towards the outer wing. 2-on-2 battle here. Amati against Hind, who takes it over the boundary line. Hind falling forward, cleverly disguised. If you want to send us a text, you can as well. 0437 774 774. 0437 774 774.
A round of applause around the SCG after Harry Cunningham was shown on the big screen wearing a hat, now sitting on the bench. That's positive after he was subbed out in the first term after being collected by Peter Wright. Bombers go inside 50. Well done by Chad Warner to get in front of Langford. Gets help from Roberts. Swans win it back again. McInerney needs to be careful. Ran straight into Heppel. It's going to be a free kick going all the way back to Dane Rampy. So anticlimactic in the end, but McInerney was met solidly by Dyson Heppel. Swans win it back anyway. Warner. It's Chad. His brother's now on the field after coming on for Cunningham as the sub. With his 7th disposal, sends it to half forward. McLean leaps well, just went through his hands. Wicks was first on the scene to row for him and then caught one high. Just forward of the wing for Sydney, commentary side. Sam Wicks looks inboard. Spots up Matt Roberts. Onto his left quickly. Sends it long into attack for Sydney. Amati came out to meet it. Dropped it off his chest. Heaney picked it up and kicked it behind. It looked like Amati had that grasp for a moment. Heaney roving. It's a minor score. Sydney lead by 3 points. Seconds ticking down until quarter time.
Bombers beyond offensive 50. Sardis couldn't take the marks. Pulled over the line. Sydney for a throw. It's a long quarter, of course, due to the injury to Harry Cunningham, which we will talk a bit more about at quarter time. The collision with Peter Wright. 37 minutes of tick by. Sydney by 3 points. We put back in, right half back for the Bombers. Grundy got there first, palmed it down two-handed. It's been a quarter that's had a bit of absolutely everything. Some sensational goals, some great passages of play, and a moment or two of controversy, which we will be wondering where it will leave Peter Wright for the next few weeks. The Swans lead at the first break by 3 points. Sydney 4-4-28, Essendon 4-1-25. For Sydney, their goal kickers going through them. 2 to Hayward. Marty's got one and McLean with the other. For the Bombers, Langford with 2, Gresham with 1 and Cox with 1. Repeating earlier today, a win to the Dockers by 26 points over North Melbourne, and then Melbourne beat the Hawks by 55. Wherever you're listening, the Swans leading by 3 points at quarter time. This is live footy on ABC Sport.
Time for the family road trip.
98.
The big prawn.
Yes. 99.
The big mosquito. It's a real one.
And 100.
Easy.
The big Listen app.
Of course.
The ABC Listen app has a big array of road trip ready podcasts, radio, audiobooks, music and sport. Something for everyone.
I guess it has to be big to fit in all those podcasts.
For a big selection of audio entertainment.
Really, Dad?
Listen big. Download the free ABC Listen app today.
This is ABC Sports coverage of the 2024 AFL season. Every match on the ABC Listen app.
Look for the AFL button.
Merritt gets first hands on it and wins the first clearance for Essendon. They go inside 50 and it's a mark by Gresham. Did he give Essendon the perfect start? He runs around on his right. It curls around beautifully, straight over the umpire's hat.
They're all in.
What a start by the Bombers.
They'll set up through Merritt, kicks inside, forward 50, one-on-one battle at the top of the goal square. Umpire spots a free kick going Essendon's way. Nick Cox looking for his first goal of 2024 from no more than 20 out. He puts it through. It's all Essendon in the opening 3 minutes at the SCG.
Now they can work it up the wing through Durham. The Bombers, that's a big hit. Peter Wright on Harry Cunningham, and Cunningham hasn't moved. And the crowd does not like that.
It's one of those tough ones, isn't it? Probably a 60-40 ball. He was a step behind. He probably wasn't going to make it there, but he's left the ground, though. That's probably the issue there.
I think just the way the league's going with this, I think he's going to get it at least a week or two.
Threw it on the boot towards centre half forward. Gresham was able to work it away to the side to centre field. Now to Langford, who snaps around the body from 48 out. That's a ripper for his seconds.
Matt Roberts, the rising star from the opening round, looks towards the pocket. Excellent lead and marked by Hayward. Hayward runs around on the snap. It's curling. Fantastic goal, Will Hayward. Arms outstretched. Rides it further forward to Heaney. The game on the Swans' terms now. Goulden runs around on his left, sends a long, looking for McLean and finding him. Champagne footy, Sydney. Hayden McLean. 4 goals for the season now for him. And the Swans' third tonight.
The 2024 AFL Premiership season.
On your radio.
ABC Sport Digital.
And on the ABC Listen app.
In the opening serve, the Bombers had 2 goals before Sydney had a disposal, but it is the Swans who lead by 3 points at quarter time. On live footy on ABC Sport, let's get the thoughts of our experts, Callum Sinclair and Joel Patfull.
Yeah, Joel, I probably thought it was probably a quarter of 2 halves, to be frank. I think Essendon, you can't knock how they started. They were absolutely terrific. Probably just something to highlight would be their midfield work. Hit outs 11-3 in favour of Essendon. Clearances 13-5. Centre clearances 4-3. Stoppage clearances in total are 9-2. So Essendon are clearly dominant. Probably felt that Sydney came into that game more through the drive off half-back with guys like Goulden, Blakey, Chad Warner's been superb. Heaney's got involved as the game's gone on. I just still think that Essendon have been fantastic. I just think the Swans need to tidy up probably their midfield at the moment. And I don't know what you do, Joel, with about how you nullify something like Blakey. It's just very, very difficult.
Well, it's a tough one, isn't it? I'm glad you brought up the ruck contest with Grundy and Draper. Has been pretty interesting to see, hasn't it? What's your take on that? Obviously, Essendon's been dominant in the clearances. What can they change up the Swans to improve in the second quarter?
Well, it's probably more at ground level. I think sometimes they do have a little bit of the bounce of the ball, but I'd like to see Grundy actually jump, to be brutally honest. I think in the first 3 weeks, first couple of weeks of the season, he seems to be crossing the line and just trying to keep the other ruckman down. But Draper's not that kind of guy. You know, he probably enjoys getting involved in the wrestle. You know, he's a big lad. He's a big lad, Draper. So I think Grundy and McLean, when they're in there, they need to try and use their lead to their advantage.
Yeah, and he's been following up well as well at ground level, Draper, hasn't he? He's helping out in that clearance work, getting the ball going forward, getting that possession.
Just watching Peter Wright, the teammates are constantly going to him and trying to get his spirits up. I'm keen to ask you guys, if you've been reported in a game or in an incident whereby you know you're going to be looked at. Peter Wright's facing a suspension for the hit on Harry Cunningham, no doubt. How do you deal with that for the rest of the game? How distracting can it be?
I personally found it all quite frustrating when regardless of if you've had a shocker on the field or there's been an incident which clearly you've been involved with. I personally don't like it when everyone kind of is coming over to you throughout the entire game, because all that's doing is just, to be honest, it's just reinforcing that you've had a shocker or you've done something wrong. I'd personally let it go now. He's going to get enough attention from the crowd, but Joel, I'd be keen to know your thoughts.
It almost becomes more of a distraction the more the players acknowledge it. Like, he knows he's done something. Every time he goes near the ball now, the crowd's going to react. So the best thing for Peter Wright to do is to take a mark, take some time off the clock, kick a goal, get involved in the game, because he hasn't been able to do that yet. And the more time that goes between him having an impact on the game, the more that's going to weigh on him as well as the game goes on.
At half-time, and we have more time, we'll dissect whether or not you are allowed to brace for contact the way he did. It wasn't a smother, which was the way the rule changed in the off-season after the Maynard-Brayshaw collision. If he's found guilty, then I would suspect it goes straight to the tribunal with the damage done, and will probably get 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks for that. So he's either completely clear because you're allowed to protect yourself and brace for impact, or he's in genuine trouble. We'll find out. Get the thoughts.
It's going to be a hard one, this one, I reckon, for the tribunal.
It'll be argued.
Very, very tough.
And it'll be probably one of those 4-hour tribunal meetings. Draper got a free kick to start things for the Bombers, and he sends it deep inside the forward 50 immediately for Essendon. We're back underway. Swans are able to repel quickly. Only getting a kick into the middle of the ground, out towards the logo, centre wing. Scooped up by Setterfield after it came off hands to Mackay. Gives it to Laverde for Essendon. Now to Merritt. They're forced to backtrack here, Essendon. They've gone right back inside their defensive 50, and at fullback, Heppel takes the mark. He looks to go and find Draper on the outer edge of the centre square. Got a bump from Goulden, and that'll be 50. And then the ball's been knocked out of Draper's hand. The umpire's not quite falling for that. Making any real effort to hang on to it, but nonetheless.
It's a similar contest to the one we saw earlier, just Goulden's half the side, so he didn't do any damage.
I was going to say, it would have felt like a flea on Sam Draper's back, Errol Goulden jumping into him.
So Draper.
Question for you. If Draper did that to Errol Goulden, would he be reported?
Oh, but
yes.
We've seen that.
No, Joel, what did you say?
Yes.
Yeah.
We saw that. You saw that in Perth a couple of years ago when Nick Natanui was far stronger and tackled someone into the ground and hurt them.
Yeah.
And got a week for it. And it was like, well, if they were reversed, it wouldn't have been an issue. It's a good point you make.
Thank you.
Here is Draper from 50 out, and he kicks the goal.
Good kick.
That's a ripping kick to put the Bombers back in front in the opening 90 seconds of the second term.
It's on.
It's on again. Couple of times that things have flared up in this game so far. Wright is in the vicinity, as you'd imagine, but I'm not sure that's the reason why all this kicked off. It'd be a good 10 to 15 players involved in push and shove, and
here we go.
Drags one of the players down onto the ground. It's still going. It was Setterfield, and then Blakey's involved with a bit too up against Cox. Eventually they'll split them all up. As the umpire spotted a free kick out of all of that.
Yeah, I think someone...
I think that might be against Grundy for the pull.
That was the one incident that stood out. Though there was certainly a bit of afters and a fair bit of, let's say, heated discussion.
I thought someone threw one.
Well, it is Setterfield who's got it.
And it was Setterfield who was thrown onto the ground. So Setterfield will have it just in the centre square, puts it into the left forward pocket. No mark taken. Chance to get hands towards Sydney. Milliken was tackled to ground, got a hand pass dangerously back into the corridor. McLean couldn't gather. Durham did well, got the arms free, got it on to Cox, who snaps but misses. Had to kick on the left under pressure, was right in front of the big sticks, put it to the left-hand side. 5-2-32 Essendon, 4-4-28 Sydney. 2 and a bit gone in the second term.
Early days, but it's set up for a classic. 7 of the last 8 games between these two sides decided by 10 points or less. It has started wonderfully for the neutral at the SCG. It is going to be a tense night for both supporter groups, you fear. Here's Merritt, tracked well by Rowbottom and mowed down into the grounds. Fairly, says the umpire. He is the enforcer, James Rowbottom, in that Sydney Swans midfield. Takes down the Bombers captain. Will have a boundary throw in just forward of the centre for the Swans. Draper, he kicked the last goal for Essendon, and Grundy wrestle. Cox is dispossessed, and then Grundy with a strong tackle on Perkins. Durham does really well to get away from a couple of would-be tacklers for Sydney. Wright knocks it to the ground, roved by Caldwell at half forward. In first for the Swans was Campbell. He was thrown to the ground and wins a free kick. It is a hot footy at the moment and a fierce contest, Cal Sinclair.
It is just, both teams are not backing down, and to be honest, I probably thought Essendon are hanging in there physically quite well. 12 months ago, I don't know if they would be able to handle this kind of heat, but obviously a good sign of their character and maturity.
It's the extra edge. The Essendon edge, as we heard from last week. Papley inside forward 50 for the Swans. Heaney flew, couldn't mark. Essendon will be able to clear here. Cox getting the hand pass. His kick bounced off Warner. It was not pretty. Martin's able to mop it up. Goes short by hand to Durham. Works it on again to Perkins for the Bombers. Now to Gresham, the former Saint. Pops it up into the air, but it's a lovely weighted chip kick. Marked on the boundary line by Caldwell, who moves it to guess who? Peter Wright. He has it at right half forward, hard up against the boundary. Still, the Bombers lead by 4 points. 5 gone in the second.
Those boos ringing in Peter Wright's ear. He goes short to Gresham and now to the pocket. 4 Swans around that contest because Peter Wright wasn't back in there. Jordan comes away with it. Short to Papley. He'll want to go. He does by hand to Warner, who ducks inside. Sends it up the wing to Wicks. He has room. Plenty of it in front of him. He'll send it over the top to Heaney, who will mark. 20 out directly in front. Slingshot footy from Sydney. Worked it out of their defensive 50 in no time. And Heaney can kick his first of the game potentially and put Sydney back in front if he converts.
If I was the Sydney Swans, I'd be praying it's not a contract year for Chad Warner. It is just his change of direction and what that does to the play in transition is incredible. I don't think I've seen a player like that for a long time. Dare I say it, it's Chris Judd-like.
28 touches, 2 goals last week for Isaac Heaney. What a start to the season he has had. Another one on the board to Sydney's number 5. And they have the lead back. The Swans are 5-4-34, Essendon 5-2-32. I'm not going to forget that comment, Cal Sinclair. That is rather high praise. You play with Chris Judd at West Coast?
No, I didn't play with him.
Crossed over, but I mean, I see what you're getting at. The burst of Chad Warner.
There aren't many players that when they get it can literally accelerate with that amount of speed, and his ability to change direction completely opens up the play. There aren't many players that can actually do that. Also, if you watch him at centre bounces as well, he can burst out the front of a centre bounce. Just my opinion.
Well, I'd have to agree. It's that first 5 steps.
Unbelievable.
He just puts a couple of metres on his opponent. But like he said, he's running straight through the middle of the ground. One change of direction opens up the whole side of the field.
Crazy.
And they're away.
He said this week in an interview that he worked really hard on his fitness. He felt as if his fitness was below the standard of a lot of midfielders in the AFL, and that's given him a major boost early in the season.
They don't have to stress until the end of next year, Cal. Locked away till the end of 2025. So here's the Swans going forward again, and McInerney got shoved in the back, and he'll get the free kick here.
I'll tell you who could use him. He's a West Australian.
They certainly could.
Him and Harley Reid in that midfield.
They could do with anyone who could stay fit, West Coast. They bring in the banner back tomorrow. Reports are they're going to make it of crepe paper so no one gets hurt as they run through it. McInerney kicks long inside forward 50, goes to full forward, spills off heads. Haywood snapped around the body, punched through by Hyde, last line of defence. Knocks it through. Just a minor score going on the Swans total. They go to be 5-5-35, Essendon 5-2-32, 7 gone in the second.
Isaac Heaney, 13 disposals, 6 score involvements, a couple of inside 50s and now a goal. What a blistering start he's had to the season. Starting him in the middle, the Swans, moving him up forward. He's an All-Australian forward, of course. It's never started a season like this. Swans fans loving it. Ball in dispute on the wing. Merritt with the bouncing handball out in front of Hobbs. Roberts wraps him up next to the logo. We'll have a ball up. Swans are 5-5-35. Essendon 5-2-32 at the SCG. Live footy on ABC Sport. Daniel Garb, Clint Wheeldon, our experts. Cal Sinclair and Joel Patfull. Highly entertaining game at the moment. Swans have it again. Corey Warner just throws it on the boot. Bouncing ball inside 50 for Sydney. Amati worked his man under the footy in Laverde. Mackay picks it up. Papley sharks it though. Snaps it inboard to Amati. Can't get the hands free. Spills free to Papley, but Amati was caught holding the ball. It'll be a free kick to Essendon in the back pocket. Strong tackle by McGrath and a man double his size in Joel Amati.
So McGrath glanced across the face of goal, decides to tuck the footy under his right arm, go on a little run and then kick beyond defensive 50. Rampy was there, got a fist to the football, bounced back in the direction of Hayward, couldn't quite get there. Setterfield could for the Bombers. Hands it off to Laverde. Goes back by hand to McGrath. Under pressure found Hobbs. Did well. Hobbs short kick. That was beautifully done. Marked there by Sardis. He's got it at right half back for Essendon. McGrath provided an option running down the wing. That's ignored. The kick, though, will come to centre wing. It wasn't a good one. Oh, that's ugly. Waiting underneath it was Lloyd, and he was crunched by Draper. And immediately Draper's set upon by Milliken. So Lloyd's going to be taken towards left half forward. The fight will continue as Lloyd pops it into the left forward pocket for Sydney. And they can go back and have a shot with Papley marking about 35 out from goal on a 45-degree angle to the left. Well, that was really unnecessary. There was no way Draper was going to be able to contest the football. He knew it and he clattered into the back of Lloyd. Sticking both arms out. 50 going to the Swans. So here is Papley looking for his first of the day. And he sneaks it in the right hand upright. Tom Papley puts his name on the goal kickers list. And Sydney give themselves just a little bit of breathing space. They're out to a 9-point advantage, the Swans. 6-5-41 to the Bombers, 5-2-32. We've travelled 10 and a bit minutes in the second term. Live footy on ABC Sport. Our experts with us tonight, Joel Patfull and Callum Sinclair.
Well, we talked about Essendon sticking up for themselves and being physical around the contest, and that's probably not the way you go about it, that one, is it, Cow? It's late, he was never going to get there, and it ends up getting Papley involved in the game, who's been pretty quiet to this point. So that's one of the things, as the Essendon defence would be filthy at that one. They give him a free entry inside 50, get a really dangerous player involved in the game, and it's not setting the tone that they want to be physical around the contest.
It's a very good point. Papley's hardly been sighted today, and I think Draper had his time again. I think he wouldn't have done that act.
So the Swans, after conceding the first 2 goals of the game without a disposal to their name, now have a 9-point lead. Strong tackle by Goulden on Durham in the middle of the ground, but just moved up a little high. A free kick to the Bombers. Durham goes down the middle, inside attacking 50. McCartan kept his feet. Menzie with a handball into a dangerous area. Goldstein, the veteran, put his head over it. Gathered it cleanly. Roberts tackled him. Isn't it good to see Todd Goldstein do that? 317 games to his name. Getting low. Trapping it in attacking 50 for Essendon. They could do with the next one, the Bombers. Jordan picks it up inside defensive 50. Turned it over there to Gresham. Snaps on goal, and Lloyd is happy to guide that over for a rush behind. So Essendon are 5-3-33. Now the umpires will have a look at this.
I reckon he might be in stride for you, Lloyd.
I think he is. He was under little to no pressure.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's a free kick to Jai Menzie.
Yeah, I reckon.
I don't think you can argue too much with that, Jake Lloyd.
No.
Outside of the goal square and under no pressure. That's exactly the right call.
Jai Menzie will run around on his left from 10 metres out, hit the post. The end result is the same. The Bombers move to 5-3-33. Sydney a 6-5-41, 8-point lead to the Swans. We've gone 12 minutes in the second quarter.
We have a couple of very good questions, which we won't be able to do during the game itself, but we'll get to at half-time. I want to keep them flowing in. Promise I'll run through them. 0437 774 774. Cue them up. We'll talk about them at half-time as the kick for the Swans goes to the outer side. Turned over. Heppel had it. Bombers forced to shovel it backwards. Hind under real pressure here. Eventually he might turn it over. No, he's had to back and gather it again. Dersma got in the way, won it for the Bombers when their need was at its greatest. Here's Laverdo, hand passing forward. Chance for Martin, now to Goldstein. Essendon have it still on centre wing out of side. To Martin again, surrounded by Swans, found a way through to Wrights. Now to Gresham from left half forward. Looks to put it towards Stringer. Backing back, couldn't mark. The pressure came from Rampy. And it's over the boundary line for a throw-in, about 35 out from Essendon's attacking goal, deep in the left forward pocket. 13 gone in the second. Still at Sydney, 6-5-41 to Essendon's 5-3-33.
Travis Cloak, the runner, getting involved in that scuffle.
Picked up by Setterfield, goes back to Hobbs, drills one a goal. Through for a behind.
Is that who? I was wondering who that was. Was that Big Trav, was it?
Cloak. Did he just take his own player out of the scuffle, or was he? Because the runner can't make any contact with an opposition player. He might be able to take his own player away.
He took his own player.
That's okay.
He's wearing a glove too.
Did he take it off and throw it over the fence? He had a shot at goal. Sorry.
I actually played on him that day.
Here goes Chad Warner again. Bouncing through the middle of the SCG after Rowbottom had it at centre half back and spotted him. Campbell, who's been lively for the Swans to say the least, just keeps it out in front of him. Does well. Braden Campbell against 3 Bombers. Beats them all. Then a fourth has to come across in Nick Hine to win it back for Essendon. Sweeping handball up to Caldwell. Can the Bombers hurt the Swans the other way now? Caldwell sends it up to Langford, who was marked just inside the boundary line. Swans fans thought it had gone over. Umpires say play on. Caldwell to Stringer. Sweeping handball to Gresham, who kicks one from the goal square. We've had a few of those this round. It might have crossed the boundary line. We're not sure. It's a second goal for Jade Gresham for the night. That's all the Bombers care about. And the margin is pegged back to 1 point. Sydney 6-5-41, Essendon 6-4-40. But Langford sparked that goal by marking it close to the boundary line. Swans fans thought it had gone over.
I think it's more about he's played on from the mark as well, because he's
loving it
tonight. He's loving it. He was at least a metre outside the boundary when he played on, so I'm not sure if they take it from where he's taken the mark or what's going on there, but definitely running a fine line. But they've worked it.
Oh, it was way over.
Way over.
He's marked it way over. Never mind running over.
Look at the crowd, they're nuts. Good to see the Swans crowd get a bit nuffy about him.
Mick Malthouse said in our Melbourne program today, there should be a captain's call for terrible decisions like that. And that's another prime example right there. That was out of bounds. I won't say it more than once. It's television broadcaster's prerogative, but that was out of bounds. Goodness me. 1 point ball game. 16 gone in the second.
We're all human, mate.
Ball's back in the middle. Kicks towards the commentary wing. Oh dear, from the Bombers. Try to get to it, and good pressure being applied as McInerney's knocked it forward. So I've completely lost the plot with that goal in the second ago. McInerney, is he going to get the ball back here? Or what are they going to do? They're bringing it eventually back. It was a push in the back to McInerney on the centre wing as he was able to try to slap it back for a teammate. Sardis will get it back and then rugby pass it, of all things.
There was a bad one last week. Jake Waterman got some sauce on his hot dog. He marked it so far out.
He was almost in the river.
Cole Langford almost grabbed a Coke Zero there. He was pretty much in.
McInerney towards left half forward. No mark taken. Durham's there for the Bombers. Mopped it up. Gave it on towards Stringer. Kicks towards the logo. Commentary wing. Blakey to intercept. Nicely worked. Here's Roberts. Now Lloyd steps away from Menzie and will send it back inside his defensive 50, where Milliken can start things up again.
Inboard to Warner. Quick handball to Florent. Tries to duck inside. That was dangerous in the end. Went to Blakey. The Bombers read it well and have won it back. Dersma to right.
Out of the footy.
And now Gresham. Merritt with the quick hands to Nick Martin. Takes a bounce just to assess some options and has turned it over. He had 2 options and he split the middle and went straight to Jake Lloyd. Now Sydney can hurt Essendon the other way. McInerney has it in the middle of the SCG with composure. Spots up Corey Warner at half forward. He goes short to Heaney. Gets the 1-2 back to Corey Warner for his first goal in AFL footy. Through for a behind. He's second behind of the night, the sub. 6-6-42. Sydney now. They lead the Bombers by 2 points with a 6-4-40. What an eventful night it has been. Live footy on ABC Sport has been a ripper so far. Plenty more to come. Clint Wheeldon.
It promised a lot. It's delivered so far. Bombers to the outer side. Goldstein couldn't mark. Pressure came again. Still trying to work it out. Florent eventually off the ground. Hand pass to Lloyd. A little bit hot there for Corey. Wanted a handle. Comes back into the middle. Nice hand pass from Durham, though. Bounce towards Gresham. Eventually picks it up to Perkins. Archie stops for a moment and kicks up into the air. We'll go inside forward 50, and Wright is able to take the mark.
He's a big kick, Wright, too.
He's going to have to kick it from 52 out. Better than a 45-degree angle to the right, though. Bumping kick of the football.
This is the one we talked about. He's got to take all this in, take on the moment. He's a great set shot from here, so I think he'd back himself in.
The leading goal kicker in 2022 for Essendon. Puts boot to ball from 52 out. It's got the distance. It's a beauty from Peter Wright. He has crunched that straight through the middle. It never looked like missing. As straight as you could like. He'll go to celebrate with his teammates to give the Bombers the lead again at the 19-minute mark of the second term. Essendon 7-4-46. Sydney is 6-6-42. This is live footy on ABC Sport. Gaz sends us a text, 0437 774 774. I'm sunbaking on my rooftop of my hotel in Bangladesh. Got the budgies on. Enjoying the call. G'day to you, Gaz.
Tell you what, with Peter Wright, we've spoken about him a bit tonight, but I think the last 24 months he's completely reinvented himself as a footballer, as one of the more dominant key forwards in the competition. But that was a 65-metre kick. So he absolutely flushed that. I watched where that went into the first row. Oof.
That's the way to just dull the Boo Boys potentially for Peter Wright. You'll have his moment during the week. That was a big goal for Essendon on a Saturday night at the SCG. The Swans just move it forward to half forward. Corey wanted it well to keep it in front of him. James Jordan roved it, kicked to the top of the square. Hayward flew. Hayward is hurt as he hits the ground. Falls to McInerney, soccers it. And then Amati's kicked it with the back of his heel, and it's through for a goal. Whether it's McInerney or Amati's, it's a Swans goal. It was fancy. Lovely footwork at ground level from both of them. Amati's claiming it. Cameras are on him. And the Swans get the lead back. 7-6-48. Essendon 7-4-46. Amati with 2 for the night, we think.
They're not in a massive rush to give you a replay this round, are they?
McInerney socked it towards the goals, and Amati's thrown his heels out to try and flick it up soccer style. And yeah, he has kicked it, I think. And that is wonderful footwork. One of the more unique goals you'll see in AFL footy, with the outside of his left boot. Half the heel, half the foot, and it's through.
That's Ballon d'Or sort of stuff, isn't it?
Might be a Pushkas nominee potentially for Joel Amati.
Absolutely. Goal. Inventive, creative, sensational. Here go the Swans again. Heaney brings it away with the clearance. Gets it onto Chad Warner. Will kick into the left forward pocket. No mark taken. Knocked away by Essendon. They've mopped that up pretty well. They'll kick back towards the commentary wing. Cox and clattering into the fences just after he marked it. Caldwell did well not to lose, himself over the fence or the footy. Meted at pace. Stabs the pass low, flat and hard, and hits Merritt on the chest on true centre wing. Almost to the right of our broadcast position here at the SCG. His second term. Nicely worked to Gresham, indeed it was. They put it inside forward 50 Essendon. Goldstein was able to just get enough separation on Blake in. He takes the mark at full forward. He'll kick from no more than about 20 out. He's on a slight angle to the right. Big Todd.
Tell you what, when one team scores, the other one responds straight away. It's a terrific game of footy.
To give them back the lead, Todd Goldstein kicked 157 goals for North Melbourne, while for the Bombers, he's now got his first. He'll go to celebrate with his new teammates in red and black. And Essendon are back in front. Their leaders 4 points. What a classic this is. You mentioned about, 7 of the past 10? 16 of the past 33 have been decided by 10 points or less. Whenever they play, and I mentioned one of the earlier crosses, you wouldn't think they're ever playing each other in rivalry round, but there has been so many great games between these two sides, and this is building towards another one. 22 gone. in the second. The Bombers by 4.
It's certainly a fiery game, but both teams playing a really good brand as well. From an entertainment perspective, how they're playing, it seems like, I don't know what you think, Joel, but I don't know if the coaches from both teams have given them a directive to go very, very quick. Once they're out, they're out.
There hasn't been much tempo footy tonight, has there? It's run and gun.
23 minutes gone in the second term. The lead seesawing in this second quarter. The Bombers have it back by 4 points. Merritt wins another clearance up for the handle from Setterfield. Well done by James Jordan. The new recruit from the D's, 2021 Premiership player. Tracking that one back in front of his own defensive 50. Marking and now going short to Warner. That's Corey Warner. Lets himself down with a kick, James Jordan. And it's out for a boundary throw in on the outer side. Beautiful Saturday night in Sydney. The SCG about 85% full. Plenty of Bombers fans here, as you can imagine. There aren't many theatre goers in terms of the Swan supporters. They are making their presence felt tonight in a big way. Squeeze forward from Setterfield. Roberts gets the leap on Caldwell and tries to punch it free of defensive 50. Merritt's first there, though. Knocks it in front of him. Now Rampy has it. The veteran, handball over the top to McDonald. The big man lopes away through the middle of the SCG, goes long for McLean. Well done back there. Jaden Laverde, he was outnumbered 1 against 3, and he's outmarked McLean.
He gives it to Cox in the right back pocket. Ooh, ugly kick under pressure from Chad Warner. Only goes as far as the Swans. Rick sends it back inside forward 50. Big collision. Papley coming one way. There's a Bomber down in all of that as well. Hind is in strife with the football and slowly getting up off the deck. Was it Laverde? It was. They both did fly for it. They both had eyes for the footy. They're going to ball this up after Hind was tackled. They're both okay. Up and about now as Draper locks arms with Grundy. Grundy palmed it down. Only as far as Martin. Got it to Hobbs. Hand pass over the shoulder. Bombers can clear their defensive 50 through Setterfield. Kicks looking to Goldstein on the wing.
Blakey was outnumbered. Got to the front in front of Goldstein, but could only shovel it as far as Caldwell. Langford with a clever kick to squeeze it to half forward. Gresham puts pressure on Lloyd. And eventually McInerney takes it over the boundary line. Right half forward for the Bombers, who lead by 4 points in an engrossing second quarter at the SCG.
I think Goldstein had a sigh of relief when he had to support when the ball hit the ground v Blakey.
Heaney's had 17 touches. Martin's had 15. Here's Caldwell getting a kick from right half forward to right full forward. Line of 4. It's off hands at the back and then made sure it's rushed through by Rampy. Minor score for Essendon. They move on to be 8-5-53. The Swans are 7-6-48. 26 gone in the second.
Rampy hands it to Lloyd for the kick-in. They are playing their 200th game together tonight. A couple of former club champions of the Swans. A couple of veterans. Goulden got it to McInerney. And now Florent to centre half forward. Goulden kept on running, as he so often does, and then guides it for the lead of Tom Papley, who got some separation on Nick Hines. Papley will kick from 50 out in search of his second goal tonight. Pretty much directly in front.
Well, it's turned into almost end-to-end footy here, as at the moment there's plenty of space for a tough contested game of footy at the SCG. I've never seen so much space out the back.
Crazy.
And in each 50. It's like they get through that first line of defence and then it's just opening each team up. So
it's a stage set for Tom Papley tonight. He has just pulled this one across the face of goal, though. So 1-1 for Papley. Swans are 7-7-49. The Bombers 8-5-53. Taking it up to the 2-zip Sydney side on their own turf.
McGrath short up the middle to Merritt. Kicks into the centre square. Setterfield back. Collided with Lloyd. Spilled down to Goulden. The Swans have it again. Roberts kicks towards centre half forward. Patley drags in the mark. Was up high. Pulled it in left-handed. Just stands a little bit shy of the attacking edge of the centre square. He's now told to play on. Hands it off to the run of Blakey on his left. He unloads towards goal. He'll miss. Kicking it behind to the left-hand side. 7-8-50 Sydney. They trail the Bombers by 3. Essendon 8-5-53. 27 gone in the second term. Live footy on ABC Sport. Clint Wilton alongside this man, Daniel Garr.
Andy McGrath, the former number 1 pick. The 1-2 with Laverde. And the guys it out to Nick Cox. He is wrapped up. taken out for a boundary throw-in. Right half forward for Sydney. So the Swans just keep it in their attacking half of the grounds. Getting closer to half-time. Bombers holding a 3-point lead. Off the boot of Grundy, it falls to Durham. And Papley wins it back again. He's been involved in everything in the last few minutes. His handball only as far as Goldstein, and now Perkins back to Setterfield. He throws it on the boot to half forward. Langford out to meet it. Blakey watched it well. It fell off the back of the pack and Blakey was able to gather. And he finds Errol Goulden.
And Goulden with the left, spears it inside forward 50. The kick was magnificent. Papley was waiting for it. It hit him. No one could get to the Swan before he marks. Got a little knock on the head afterwards. He'll go back and he is right in front and will kick from 45 out. That was a delight to watch.
2 steps. Just can see that. Errol Goulden. It's not something you can really coach, Joel, to be brutally honest, those foot skills of Errol, particularly on his left foot.
Papley looking for his second of the night from 45 out. Goal umpire has to do a little bit of work, but it sneaks in the right-hand goal post. And Sydney have got the lead again. Papley with his second. Sydney 8-8-56. Essendon 8-5-53. The Swans lead is back to 3 points. 29 gone in this, the second term. Live footy on ABC Sport.
Well, if history tells us anything, Joel, about this game, Essendon will score next. So
definitely looks that way, doesn't it? But you talked about Goulden's foot skills and ability to hit a target inside 50, but it was the space again. Papley was alone inside 50. It probably would have been a handful of times in his career that he's left alone inside 50 on a turnover like that. So Essendon defenders just got to pay a little bit more attention to those one-on-one matchups, and particularly those key players that they're trying to keep out of the game.
Down to Poppy Penny on the boundary.
Jack Caldwell looking a bit proppy on that left leg as well. Spent quite a bit of time on the exercise bike just in this quarter before that collision with the sideline.
Bombers win it out of the middle of the ground, send it into attacking 50. Blakey went the punch. They've won the free kick, Sydney. Tom McCartan's got it back there. How about Tom Papley's second quarter? 8 disposals, 5 score involvements, 2 goals and 6 marks. He has lifted the Swans. They lead by 3 points. 30 minutes gone now in the second term. Quick handball from McInerney to Rampe. Kicks to half forward. Heaney's marked. Inboard he goes to Campbell. And on the lead is McLean. Beautiful kick to find McLean on the lead. They love the ball in the hands of Braden Campbell. It's like a laser, that left foot. And McLean will kick from 50 metres on a 45-degree angle.
Their Swans' transition off half-back has been unbelievable tonight. If it's not Nick Blakey, it's Braden Campbell. If it's not him, it's McInerney. Heaney would get involved with his defensive run. Errol Goulden's two-way transition is incredible. They've got to find a way to just stop this fast burst off half-back, Essendon.
Big kick from Hayden McLean as we get close to half-time to put the Swans out to a 9-point lead. It just draws a little bit too much. McLean, for 1 goal to his name. Swans are now 8-9-57. The Bombers 8-5-53. 31 minutes gone in the second quarter here at a brilliant night at the SCG.
What do the Bombers do now? It's beyond defensive 50 from the restart. Roberts gets a fist to the footy. It's over the boundary line for a throw. Nick Martin with the kicking duties. Brown looks an absolute picture this evening. Wonderful day in Sydney. Bright lights on at the SCG and the footy has been sensational. Goldstein won it down. Gra trying to tap it forward. Split out to Papley. Has a long-range shot at goal and he's put it through, but the umpire nearest has said, no. Siren had well sounded here. And there's a bit of discussion here between Merritt and his much younger player in Sardis about who should have been where on a stoppage, and still that continues. Goldstein has come in, and then Merritt continues to have a little bit of a chat about who should have been where and why. But it has been a cracking contest. Everything you would want to see. To be fair, a few things you probably don't, but there's been just a plethora of things to talk about. On the scoreboard, it's the Swans by 4 points. 8-9-57 to Essendon's 8-5-53. The goal kickers for Sydney, Hayward with 2, Papley with a couple as well. Heaney, McLean and Amati. And Amati scoring quite a remarkable goal. A little backheeled effort on the goal line. While for the Bombers, 2 to Langford, 2 to Gresham, and singles to Draper, to Cox, to Goldstein and to Wright, who has been painted as the villain of the night if you happen to be wearing red and white. It's a bit to get through. Let's hear from our experts tonight at the SCG on Live Footy on ABC Sport. Joel Patfull, a dual winner, Brisbane Lions best and fairest, and former Eagle and Swan in Callum Sinclair. Gents.
Yes, where do we start? It's all happening, really, isn't it? From the Bombers coming out of the blocks early and really giving it to the Swans in that first quarter and setting the tone of that Essendon edge footy that we're calling it. But they've been great. They've stuck it to the Swans. They've contested. They've put pressure on them, and they've really stuck it out. Probably that last 5 or 10 minutes, the Swans started to really build their game, find some holes in that defence, and open them up a little bit. It's a high energy game, that turnover game of footy, get them on the back. So it'll be interesting to see how Essendon can keep that up for the second half. And that's probably where they started to fall down a little bit then. And the Swans were too good. Their foot skills, Heaney, Gordon, Warner, they're able to work their way through, find those targets inside 50 and make them pay.
Tell you what, I'd love to be a key position player or a forward inside 50 for the Sydney Swans at the moment. They've just been, as you mentioned, Joel, their kicking skills going inside 50, I think, has been what's really brought them back into the game. But full credit to Essendon, I think they've shown a fair bit of character tonight. I think it's fair to say, we obviously don't want to condone, particularly Peter Wright's, what happened with Peter there, which I think, to be honest, will be heavily debated during the week. I'm not too sure. I actually don't know whether he'll get a week for that or not. It won't surprise me, to be honest, either way. But overall, strong character game thus far with Essendon, but can they back this up for a second half? I know for a fact the Swans, they've got another gear to go, but the challenge for Essendon, which I kind of brought up towards the back end of that quarter, is what are they going to do about Blakey, Goulden, Heaney, McInerney, Papley? They're just chaining it off half back, and they're just finding gaps, and they're just actually spotting up guys inside 50. And they're probably getting a little bit too many shots on goal. They've got to stop this handball receive, because it's probably getting a little bit, I guess you'd probably say, not to be dramatic, Joel, but probably getting a little bit out of control. They're just having far too much influence through the middle of the ground. The Swans should not be allowed to just get contested mark in the centre square. Essendon have got to find something to do. I don't know what that looks like, whether their forwards are playing pretty high anyway, so I don't know. Do they have to come up at the old bumper bar trick? It's just probably becoming too problematic.
Well, I think they've got to just identify a few key targets. I think Goulden and Heaney have been able to run around, and they're not getting much attention. They're not getting much physical contact as they're running through the ground. Goulden's running through the centre square with no one following him, so he's been able to get involved in the game, and they're too dangerous to let him run around and do their own thing. So even when they come through, bit of contact, make it a bit harder for them than just an easy game of footy.
Interesting to watch what Essendon doing. And when the ball's in congestion, they're looking to feed back every single time, and they're feeding back once, twice, sometimes even a third time. They've got to be very, very careful of doing that, because I know for a fact Swans absolutely love it when the ball gets fed backwards. It's a sign for their whole 18 to just completely press and just get a turnover and play a territory game. What worked for Essendon, particularly in the first half of that first quarter, they played quick and they got it deep inside 50. They've got Talls down there. Jake Stringer is terrific one-on-one contest. Peter Wright, we've spoken about him, but he's a great competitor. Langford's down there as well. Cox has got some height about him. Gresham's kicked 2 goals. Their forwards have been involved by actually getting it in there. I just felt like probably the back half of that second quarter overused the handball a little bit. I don't know. They were pulled a little bit out of structure, but it's a cracking game. Both teams are responding really well.
Okay, I need to ask you in more detail, because this is, like it or not, the talking point that's going to come out of this game, no matter what else happens. The Peter Wright incident with Cunningham. I guess the questions you go through are these. Was it a realistic attempt to mark the football? Let's work through these steps. Where do you sit, Joel?
So I think live, I thought he made an effort to mark the football. In the replay, I think he covers himself and braces for contact.
Okay.
Yeah, I do agree. I think live, I thought terrific courage by Cunningham, but in the moment, I can see why Peter might have had to have turned his shoulder there.
And that's where the next question comes from.
Know.
If he's made a realistic attempt, then I think you have to go, look, that's a football action. But embracing and turning himself to protect himself while off the ground, does he, and this is where we get, this is what is 2024 football, is the onus on him knowing that he can't contest the mark to make sure that he doesn't clatter his opponent. And that's where I think it'll come down to is it okay to contest the football like that, and is it okay to expect a player to be able to protect themselves?
Well, I think that's the question. So I think if Peter Wright had come straight at the football and open-chested gone for the mark and there was a contact, I think that's a football incident play on.
I agree with
But the fact that he's seen the pressure coming and turns his body to brace for contact, I think that's where he's going to find some trouble.
I think regardless of what everyone's opinion is, he's getting a week.
At least.
He's getting a week. I think there's 100% definitely some grey area, and if I was Essendon, I'd be asking a few questions. Absolutely. Why wouldn't you? But with all the stuff that's going on, he's missing next week for sure.
1 to 2 at least. From there, we don't know. That's going to be interesting.
The problem is, if you put it into the matrix, it ends up being... It's going to be severe because the player's been taken off the ground. It's high because you've made contact with the head. You're off to the tribunal, which means it's minimum 3, maybe more.
Yeah, I think you'd be lucky to get anything under that. And the fact it's leaving the ground. If you're arguing against it, you're saying you didn't have to leave the ground. You could have bumped Harry Cunningham by staying on the ground, and that's where he's made.
Are you saying he's getting 3 minimum?
If you put it into
very likely.
Yeah, if you put it into the mix, which is there, I don't have it in front of me, but I'll drag it up.
I don't think it's worth 3, but
that's where we sit.
Correct.
It's high and it's severe if he's found guilty. So
agree.
the leading the ground, I think, if as you say, Joel, if it was just a marking contest, if he just had his hands out for the mark and contacted the man, that way you're allowed to leave the ground. But he's made a decision to protect himself, and then I would think with the way footy is seen now, rightly or wrongly, they're going to say you've led your action in turning has led to the way that it's going to happen.
This is why it's so hard in footy, because you see the replays, but that decision for Peter Wright is not even, it's 1/10 of a second. I'm marking this ball, there's a player there, and then it just happens so quickly. So it's like
we sometimes expect the impossible from our players.
Exactly.
You've got a lot more sympathy for him than you do, say, Jimmy Webster, who you feel had time to make much better decisions.
Yes.
But that was just bizarre what he did. Wright was a lot quicker and harder, but he's turned his shoulder and he's left the ground and he's in trouble.
We've spoken for more than we needed to. We needed to go through that. Thanks very much for your patience. We'll come back with some of your text messages. But first, let us pause here at the SCG with the Swans leading by 4 points and take the latest from the ABC newsroom.
Hello, this is ABC News with David Rowlands. Tasmanian Senator Jackie Lambie is urging the major parties to accept they'll have to cooperate with independents and minor parties, as early results suggest a healthy vote for her party in the Tasmanian state election. Laura Beavis has more.
The Liberals called the Tasmanian state election early to try to regain a majority. An increase in lower house seats means it will be easier for independent and minor party candidates to get elected. Senator Lambie says the major parties need to treat minor parties like her own with respect.
What's going on around the rest of the world, because there are independents and micros coming in and majors are going out.
Only a small number of votes have been counted so far, showing the Liberals polling higher than Labor.
Meantime, Tasmanian Deputy Premier Michael Ferguson says Premier Jeremy Rockcliffe will continue to have his support and the support of the party room, even if they fail to win a majority in the state election.
No more hypotheticals. The people have now spoken. We now need to understand what the numbers are. Jeremy will continue to have the support of the party room, in my judgment. He'll continue to have my support as well.
Russian officials have dramatically increased the death toll from the shooting attack on a rock concert near Moscow, now saying at least 93 people have died. Earlier, the death toll had been put at more than 60. Meanwhile, a Russian state news agency says 11 people have been detained following the attack. In an online post by a Russian MP, he said that 2 people suspected of carrying out the attack were detained southwest of Moscow following a car chase, while other suspects fled into a nearby forest on foot. Meantime, there's been another lethal Ukrainian drone attack on the Russian border region of Belgorod. The regional governor says 1 person has been killed and 2 wounded in the latest aerial strike. Recently, Russia and Ukraine have both been stepping up cross-border drone attacks. A marine biologist says a massive proposal to conduct seismic blasting in the Otway Basin off the Victorian coast would be a dangerous experiment. Annie Ford, a member of non-profit Surfrider Foundation Australia, joined thousands of protesters in Torquay today. She says there's never been a proposal on such a scale before for seismic blasting, and the impact on marine life and ecosystems could be devastating.
The proposal is to seismic blast 45,000 square kilometres of our ocean and our seabed in the search for gas underneath the seafloor. They will be seismic blasting 20 kilometres beneath the seafloor in the search for this fossil fuel.
One of Western Australia's peak trade groups is calling on the state government to overturn its ban on uranium mining. In a newly released policy paper, the Chamber of Commerce and Industry WA says the state could produce about $1 billion worth of uranium exports per year. The call comes a week after WA Liberal leader Libby Mettam pledged to overturn the ban on uranium mining if elected next year. However, Premier Roger Cook has remained firm that Labor's policy won't change. The Chamber says if South Australia and the Northern Territory can mine and transport uranium, then WA should have the same opportunity. The United Nations organisation says it's profoundly shocked by the discovery of a mass grave containing the bodies of 65 migrants in the deserts of southwestern Libya. Larry Buttrose has the details.
The International Organisation for Migration believes the scores of migrants died as they were being smuggled through the desert, trying to reach the Mediterranean, and from there, southern Europe. It says the tragedy highlights the need for a coordinated response to the smuggling of migrants and legal migration pathways. The IOM says last year was the deadliest for migrants since records began a decade ago. More than 8,500 people died of migration routes worldwide last year, a 20% increase on the year before.
China's Commerce Minister has met the chief of tech giant Apple ahead of major business conferences in the coming week. The Chinese Commerce Ministry says Apple CEO Tim Cook discussed his company's development in China. Mr. Cook opened Apple's newest store in Shanghai on Thursday as the phone maker faces rising competition from Chinese rivals such as Huawei. To sport and in soccer, two late goals from Melina Ayres against her old side has given the Newcastle Jets a dramatic 3-2 win over the Melbourne Victory in the A-League women's competition. 2-1 down in the second half, Ayres took charge for Newcastle with a brilliant double strike to lead the Jets to victory. It lifts them to 7th and knocks the Victory out of the top 4. Meanwhile, Melbourne City consolidated their place at the top of the A-League women's ladder with a 3-0 win over the Central Coast.
Hey, want to hear something really funny?
Well, of course.
The Melbourne International Comedy Festival is back.
Woohoo! Yes.
Kicking off with the gala on the ABC tonight.
You ready for a big night of comedy, yeah?
Then the All-Stars Super Show next Wednesday night.
Seems to be a little bit loose, a little bit crazy.
A brilliant star lineup for the Melbourne International Comedy Festival.
Have a great festival, everybody.
Starting with the gala tonight on ABC TV and streaming on ABC iView.
This is ABC Sports coverage of the 2024 AFL Premiership season.
AFL. On your radio.
On digital. And take us with you on the ABC Listener.
Look for the AFL button.
What a seesawing, what a brilliant game it has been. Sydney lead by 4 points. There have been 7 lead changes against the Bombers here at the SCG. It is half-time, 8-9-57 to Essendon's 8-5-53. Both teams about to make their way back out onto the ground. A couple of text messages I did promise that we would get through. And a good question. Shane in Coffs Harbour. We know that there's no red cards in footy, but would Peter Wright have gotten one? And should we consider a force sub-red card? That's from Shane in Coffs Harbour. The Peter Wright incident at the moment is where I'm still against red cards for that. Jimmy Webster's a different scenario. I'm not really for red cards, but I could almost see why that would happen. But the arguments that would take place about whether that's a legal action and whether that was the right thing to do could take hours. I wouldn't want to see a player red carded because, again, we go back to I know there's been changes on this, but the Maynard versus Brayshaw, which took 4.5 hours to sort out, and in the end, under the rules that were in place at the time, it was decided that was okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to see a red card for that. not against the red card for what I would argue a violent action. If you punch someone behind the play or any things like that, no problem.
Brent Staker-like, yeah.
Brent Staker-like, when Barry Hall got him. Under those circumstances, no issue at all. But with a football action like that, Shane, I think it would be too hard to make a decision in a shorter period of time, knowing that sending a player off has such more than soccer football, where you can park the bus. In this game, I'd hate to see the difference that it would make.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
Rory in Melbourne, blind listener, love your commentary. Which of these two teams is the same shade of red as the red light that denotes that you guys are on air? That's actually, I'd never thought about that. It's a good question. Sydney, for me. That's definitely a Sydney red, not an Essendon red.
Yeah, the Bombers red is just a lot smaller. Just the sash across the middle of the jumper.
It's a darker red,
It's
too.
a darker red. I would agree with that.
Yeah. Essendon represents one small suburb in Melbourne. This is from Anne against the biggest city in the nation. Plus all of the AFL money poured into Sydney. It's my uncles from Moonee Ponds and friends played for Essendon. I'm proud of my team, the Dons. It's a David and Goliath story. Brave. And I know that it's from one suburb in Melbourne, but the Bombers are a massive club around the country. I've got mates who grew up in Perth who are passionate supporters of Essendon. They've got supporters everywhere, and going back to the likes of Kevin Sheedy, who would sell the message of Essendon all over the country. They're not a small suburban club in Melbourne, Anne. You can't play that one. Don't give us this David and Goliath stuff, Anne. No way in the world. I'm not buying that for a second.
No, and I am in agreement. So you are one of the biggest clubs going around, but you are right. They have got a massive supporter base. Hasn't the criticism been of late, the last few years, that a couple of their more high-profile supporters have got a little bit too much influence internally there at the club? Is that certainly the
coiterie
Have
groups?
I spoken too much?
No, not at all. There has been genuine criticism that the coiterie groups have had too much sway at the Bombers for a long period of time.
Carlton too?
Carlton perhaps as well.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they're getting back to it. They're not a small club.
Massive club and a massive drought. 20 years this year since they last won a final, which Bombers fans don't like to be reminded of, but it is more than pertinent. I mean, they've got to end that quickly. It's an amazing stat considering the size of that football club and the amount of success they've had in the past. We know they had a big saga through the middle of those years, which set them back a lot, but they're overdue to end it. I mean, this is a big year for them, and it's tonight was fascinating for me because they are one of those sides you're not quite sure what they're capable of. A test against a team like Sydney away from home, all right, early in the campaign, but just where are you at? They're taking it to the Swans tonight.
Quick one before we get some of the stats from you, Garby, but Phil from SA, regarding the Peter Wright clash, are you suggesting that a player's priority when there is a potential clash, that a player must consider the safety of an opposition player over his own safety? I'm saying that he has to consider we know this. The AFL has said this. This is not me. Has said you do have to take into account the potential impacts of the collision and what you're doing. You have to take into account your fellow player out there on the field. So you do have, and the line used is a duty of care to your opponent. So you don't just run through them and put them in hospital.
It's such a hard line. I mean, it's difficult to draw a definitive line in the ground, but my point is, if you're going at the footy, I think you can go as hard as you want. And if your eyes are purely for the footy, if you collide with a player, then that's, whatever happens, happens. But it's when the decision's made to cover up or to go out of your way to hit an opposition player, then you're in trouble. So I think that's why it's such a hard one. But a marking contest, two players could come from opposite directions, and if they're both gone to the bowl, they could both be knocked out, and it's play on. So that's just the fine line that we play in this game.
We saw one of those examples in the Fremantle game last week. Two players only had eyes for the football. They crashed into each other. One was fine.
Yep.
The other one was knocked out and had to be taken off the ground. No problem. And we have to accept that it's a physical game and accidents like that will happen.
Some stats to half-time. Isaac Heaney, 19 disposals, 10 score involvements and a goal. Tom Papley, 15 disposals, 7 score involvements, a couple of goals. Chad Warner's been instrumental. Errol Goulden, 6 score involvements for the Bombers. Nick Martin and Zach Merritt, 17 disposals apiece. Will Setterfield has 16 as well, trying his best in the middle for the Bombers. Third quarter underway. Sydney lead by 4 points. On a Saturday night at the SCG, live footy on ABC Sport. Rowbottom's in there again with another strong tackle. That's his 7th tackle of the night, and he helps win it back for Sydney. Blakey off halfback, finds Amadi leading out and marking in his midriff. 70 out from the Swans' goals, right half forward. He's marked it in front of Laverde. He'll just centre it up Amadi with 2 goals to his name to McDonald, who's taken a strong pack mark. Opposed to Ben Mackay. That's what they want from their big young forward. The new man controlling the Sydney forward line in the post-Buddy Franklin era. That's a strong grab by Logan McDonald.
I was never a full-back, Joel, but surely Logan McDonald shouldn't be allowed to take a run for it like that. He had a massive run up at that. I just would have thought defensively Ben Mackay would have done his work a little bit earlier.
We'll let him kick and then I'll come back to you.
4 goals last week against
have a think about it.
Collingwood. Logan McDonald's got his first of the night. The boy from Bunbury is now the main man inside forward 50 for Sydney. Pick 4 from several years ago. He's bided his time next to Buddy, and now it's his time, Logan McDonald, with some help from the likes of Amadi and McLean, of course, but it's a big season for him, and that's a big goal to start the third term. The Swans out to a 10-point lead.
He's naturally going to kick more goals this year because he's going to get more opportunity. So, don't get me wrong, Buddy's been a massive influence on the Swans, but just kind of see the more times they're going inside 50, Amadi, McLean, Logan McDonald. It's a nice group there of key forwards that are getting equal opportunity and a little bit tough to match up on at the moment, to be honest. They're all not going to play well every single week, but they do need a gel together.
Either ruck got a touch. Bounce comes down. Hits the deck. Emerging with it. Grundy gets a kick away. Inside forward 50. It bounces. Hayward couldn't quite get to it. Laverde tapped it down. Diving on top of it as Heppel. Looked to shovel a hand pass out. Get it to a bomber. In amongst all of that, it's knocked up into the air. Sardis typing it forward for Essendon. That was cleverly done to Merritt. Works it out to Hobbs. Kicks towards right half forward. Chance to build again. Langford marks. Will stab it towards the 50-metre arc, and he hits Stringer on the chest. Marking it 50 out from goal, 51 out from goal, 45-degree angle to the right. He looked for a lead. He steps inside his opponent, left Blake in his wake, runs inside 50 and misses. It's to the left-hand side, a behind to Essendon, 8-6-54. They trail Sydney 9-9-63. 3 minutes gone in the third term.
Nice effort from Jake Stringer, but that's just his 6th disposal of the game and yet to kick a goal. So he needs to start influencing matters for the Bombers. Such an important player for them. Florent goes to the left back pocket for Rampy. Up to the wing, over the head of Amadi. Draper's back there. The big ruckman tries the don't argue, throws the ball in the boot. High up and under to the logo, marked by Langford. He goes wider to right half forward. Nick Martin gathers. Well done by McInerney to read that early. It was intended for Gresham. McInerney got in front, brought it down. Tom McCartan's kick was watched by Grundy. Should have marked it, didn't. Roved it down in front of Warner in the end. Laverde gathers for the Bombers though. Sardis inboard to Perkins. Rowbottom had eyes on him. Perkins got the kick clear, and now Wright's taking a big mark. 2-on-1 against him, Peter Wright, and he's outmarked Melican and McCartan, and will kick for his second goal from 25 out in the slight angle to the right.
This is a big moment for Peter Wright.
I'll talk about it now because he's just taken another. He's taken a mark against another opponent. So what happens now is because teams zone so strongly, they're actually playing 2 or 3 metres off their direct opponent. So it's hard to initiate that contact when there is a long ball inside 50, and it gives the taller players an opportunity to run and jump at the footy.
An eventful night for Peter Wright. Collected Harry Cunningham early. He was subbed out, but he's got 2 goals to his name. He's working his way through that. Is 2 metre Peter very nicely. Big goal for the Bombers. They are 9-6-60. Sydney 9-9-63. And we've gone 5 minutes in the third term at the SCG.
When the Swans are coming out of defence at the moment, I hope this was a directive from Brad Scott. Essendon are slowing them down. They're not allowing them to get a run or an overlap handball. The last 3 or 4 entries then were from repeats. Swans had to sky it out under pressure. Essendon were set up behind the ball. That's exactly what Essendon have to do in order to combat this Blakey, McInerney, Gordon scenario that's happening off halfback. As soon as the Swans take a mark inside 50, Essendon need to get set up defensively and slow them down and cause real tempo football. But I don't think Swans want to play that.
Callum Sinclair alongside Joel Patfill, our experts. Live footy on ABC Sport. Taking it away from the middle of the Swans. Heaney got it to Rowbottom. Just got the kick away before he was tackled. Cox gathered for the Bombers to Caldwell. Wonderful tackle from Haywood. Wrapped him up, ball and all, took him to ground. Just inside Sydney's forward 50. Left half forward for the Swans. It's thrown aloft. Grundy at the back. Won it down to Goulden. Goes back to Chad Warner. Stepped aside one Bomber. Awkward bounce. Didn't suit Rowbottom at all. Went away from him. Might as well try to lock this ball in for another ball up. They will get that. Nicely done out of all that. Coming up is Sardis. Gives it back to the umpire. Grundy taps it down. Only as far as Merritt though. Got a hand pass away for Essendon. Intercepted by the Swans. Goulden gave it to Blakey. Runs along the boundary line from left half forward. Puts it into the left forward pocket of Marty. Got hands to it. Couldn't mark. Mackay gathered it down there. Gave it on to Hind. And now to Caldwell.
Handball further forward. Sardis throws it on the boot, but they've turned it over again, the Bombers. Back by Tom McCartan. Outer wing. Goes short and finds Goulden. He's getting plenty of it. 75 out from the Swans attacking goals. Rolls the ball in his hands. Now tries to guide it to a lead of Heaney. The Bombers converged on him. Hobbs is wrapped up by James Jordan. Didn't have prior opportunity according to the umpire, but James Jordan has locked this up inside attacking 50 for Sydney, who lead by 3 points. 7 minutes gone in the third term.
Umpire puts it up into the air. One down by Grundy. So no one in particular. It's in traffic. Trying to emerge with it. Cox. He's tackled to ground as well. Ball up once more. Throwing up. Draper won the tap. Spilled to Heaney. Met solidly behind. Ball ricocheted out towards Draper. Couldn't get a clearing kick away. It's still inside the Swans forward 50 here. Comes out the side to Papley. Originally from McInerney. Papley popped it up. Waiting underneath it was Jordan. Couldn't quite get there. Dersmore was able to knock it to ground. Martin brings it away. Langford breaks a tackle for the Bombers. Gives it to Setterfield. Will kick down the commentary wing and wants Stringer, who marks. That's well done by Essendon. They still trail by 3 points. 8 gone in the third.
Stringer starting to work his way into the game now. Massive intervention by Dersmer in defensive 50. That looked like a certain mark to the Swans. Stringer ducks around an opponent and hits up right, for which the boos still come. Centres it inside attacking 50. Punched away by Florent. Coming out to meet it's Logan McDonald. Durham gathers it. Handball from Mackay. Finds Sardis. High ball on his left, up and under. Draper marks it. Held his position to the front of the pack. The Swans flew over him, but with strength he's marked it on his chest, and the big ruckman Sam Draper will kick from 35 out straight in front to put the Bombers back in front.
And this is something that you definitely have to do against Grundy, is that he probably not the most accountable ruckman that you're ever going to find in the AFL. That's not a disrespectful comment, but that's something that you do need to do on Grundy, is actually take him forward and make him accountable. Terrific mark there by Draper, don't get me wrong, but that's a real probably part of Grundy's game that can be exposed.
Just 14 games last season, interrupted pre-season with injury. And that one has slid off the side of the boot. Trufferet behind. Margin now just 2 points. Essendon 9-7-61. Sydney 9-9-63 are behind by Sam Draper. We've gone 9 minutes in the third quarter.
Blakey on a bit of a run. Stabs the pass into the left back pocket. Roberts short to Rowbottom. Get it back. Rowbottom likes to hang on to it. Still just inside his defensive 50. The 50's marked on the ground at left half back. He'll kick down the outer wing. Grundy stretched a hand to it. Couldn't quite drag it in. Caldwell was there at the drop. Gave it to Martin for the Bombers. They'll send it towards right half forward. Ooh, Rampy is crunched into the side of Stringer. Umpire said it was okay. Stringer gets up quickly from the SCG turf. He'll look to send it inside forward 50. He'll measure the kick, but not like he wanted. Blakey got in the way, won it down to Heaney, to Roberts. Straight hand pass. They're there again, the Bombers. Dersmer to Stringer from 48 metres out. The shot on goals across the face and bounces over the boundary line for a throw-in about 10 metres to the left of the Bombers' goal. They trail by 2 points. 10 gone, third term. Live footy on ABC Sport.
They're getting good looks, Essendon.
Haven't quite made the Swans pay just yet, those. Jake Stringer, heavily involved in this third term after a quiet first half. Grundy works it down. Swans in their defensive back pocket. Florent throws it on the boot. It evades Laverde. Heppel tracks it back and gathers it. Gives it to Goldstein. Then Laverde's wrapped up by Amati. Excellent tackle. Swans soccer it forward. It might sit up for Papley. Good tackle on him by Nick Hind, who gathers him and then pulls him over the boundary line. They're at each other, but that was such an important tackle because if he didn't stick it, Papley was away.
Papley with 16 disposals so far. Heaney leads all comers with 22. Martin with 20 for the Bombers. Put back into play. Grundy. Front position. Goldstein, though, was able to win it down. The Bombers wobble a kick towards left half forward. Waiting underneath it. A chance to build again. Stepping left. Stepping right. McCartan now goes short. Sliding down. Quite able to take the mark. It bounced in front of him was Jordan. And Gresham sees him over the line for a throw-in. Left half forward for Essendon. Gresham's got a couple, so too Wright and Langford. Multiple goal kickers for the Bombers. Hayward and Papley for Sydney. Throwing in again. Goldstein does win this down. Oh, Chad Warner read it beautifully. Sharked it, went away, racing to Rowbottom. To the logo on the commentary wing to Goulden. Kicks into the middle of the ground. Dersma again showed real courage. Went up against Roberts, brought it to ground. Florent picks it up. His hand pass intercepted by Hobbs. Got it for the Bombers. Gave it off to the side, and then great pressure came from Blakey. Wrapped up Menzies. Ball jarred free. Still with it, Sydney. They've got numbers. Working forward, Corey Warner. Now on in turn to Goulden from 51 out. It's bouncing, it's through. That is simply sensational. What a way to kick a goal as the Swans, they put their lead out again. Oh, Errol, you would do anything just to be like him. Another goal to Sydney. He's got his name now on the goal kicking list. Sydney 10-9-69 to Essendon 9-7-61. 13 gone in the third. Live footy on ABC Sport.
Well, it was a big contest in the middle of the ground, wasn't it? It was Essendon turnover into a Sydney turnover. Just a scrap. It was a little touch to get it going forward, and then Goulden was just on his bike. Beautiful finish from there, running outside 50. Chalk that up every day, eh?
And real development in Nick Blakey's game. Like, he probably got criticised for his physicality off half-back, but something that, don't get me wrong, his dash is brilliant, but his physicality to come and tackle has been superb.
Swans out to an 8-point lead. The golden boy of Sydney, Errol Goulden, with a wonderful finish from outside 50. Well done by Rampy. Bombers won the clearance. The kick was designed for Peter Wright. And the veteran, 2016 All-Australian, 2019 Bob Skilton medalist. No longer a captain, but still very much a leader. Dana Rampy takes the mark in the back pocket. His kick up the wing is through the hands of Heppel. McLean gathers it. Handball to Warner. Tried to get around Merritt, who watched him closely and caught him holding the ball. Bit off a bit too much you could chew there, Chad Warner. You can see why he wants to take the tackles on. He's been doing it all night. But the Bombers captain in Zach Merritt watched him closely, and that might just lift his side in this third term.
Merritt pauses for a moment, takes a couple of deep breaths. Great tackle it was.
We got a blood wound, but that's a massive tackle in the scheme of things. You talk about momentum, and you know, on a player like Chad Warner, for one of your key players to bring him down, holding the ball in a situation like that, really gets the team up and about.
Poppy Penny's downstairs. Poppy.
Yeah, Logan McDonald come off with a cut to his cheek, and also Joe Caldwell still working through a corky on his left leg.
Merritt's now told to play on. He does so, kicking down the outer wing. Red there. Setterfield just put himself in the right spot behind a line of four, marked it and kicks it into the right forward pocket. Rampy goes up in front of Langford and punches it out over the boundary line for a throw-in. About 35 out, the Bombers' goal. Poppy Penny again. Poppy?
Yeah, Logan McDonald's gone straight down to the rooms for some stitches on that cut on his face.
A couple of big interventions down back from Dane Rampy in this third term. Still an 8-point lead to the Swans. Bombers well and truly in this at the SCG, and they've got a chance to kick on goal. It's with Sartis. The youngster tries to bend it around on the outside of his right. Doesn't do so. It goes the other way. And through for a behind. Essendon 9-8-62. The Swans 10-9-69. 15 minutes gone in the third.
Results earlier today. Freo by 26 over North Melbourne. Melbourne by 55 over the Hawks. As the Swans went to Milliken in the right back pocket, hard up against the boundary. He'll stab a ball inside. It was dangerous, but just enough to get its way to Florent, who had to go down very low to mark centimetres above the turf. It's beyond defensive 50 to right half back. This is Chad Warner. He'll send it deep inside forward 50. Papley wanted it. McGrath spoiled it away. McLean was there. Hand pass over the top. So Papley taken high. He'll get the free kick. Is absolutely there against McGrath. Gives his on the side of his head a little bit of a rub as he'll climb up off the deck. Papley looking for what? Well, if he kicks this, it'll be a thumping goal. Probably beyond him. Have to look for an option. Inside forward 50. Floating forward was Jordan. That's ignored. He'll send it towards the hot spot. Front of goal. No mark taken. Amati was up. Got a hand pass out the back. Step on goal. Oh, so close. Corey Warner almost with his first in league footy. Snapped it. Missed by less than a metre to the right of the big stick. A minor score. 10-10-70 Sydney. Essendon 9-8-62.
He's had a few shots at his first goal in AFL footy. Corey Warner. He's got it back again. This time he centres it to a dangerous area. Back there is Mackay. Laverde's under pressure. McInerney's around the mark. They have to send it through for a rush behind the Bombers under enormous pressure. Sydney are threatening to just break this game open a touch. They are 10-10-70. Essendon 9-8-62. Live footy on ABC Sport. It's been a ripper so far. Plenty more to come.
Nick Martin into the left back pocket to Heppel. There's a long look downfield. And that's where the kick will go. Centre wing, commentary side. He wanted Goldstein in front though. McCartan lost his shorts as well. It was unhelpful from Goldstein. He gets up, pulls up the stride, steps back in front of the interchange gates. McCartan spinning the yellow Sharon over in his hand. Runs inboard for a bit, then kicks back inside, attacking 50 for Sydney. Going up was Mackay, won it down to McGrath. Not a great hand pass. Oh, it's nutmegged Heppel. Picked up by Papley. Oh, the hand pass was too hot. Unable to gather that was Wicks. Ball still in dispute. And a ball it up. There was some nervous moments right then, I reckon.
So many star names around the ball for Sydney tonight. Warner, Papley, Heaney, Goulden. They've still got Parker, Adams and Mills to come back into this team. That's a scary thought for the opposition. The Bombers are unperturbed at the moment, though, matching it with Sydney. McInerney with a handball inside to Corey Warner. Now James Jordan on the snap to a dangerous area outside the top of the goal square. McCampbell almost took the mark. Regathered it on the left, had a snap. Through for a behind. Swans fans thought Campbell might have claimed that at one stage. Wasn't to be. So 10-11-71 the Swans. Essendon 9-8-62. 18 minutes gone in the third.
Essendon goes short. Far enough to be a mark, so they'll have to move this on quickly through Martin. Still inside defensive 50. Setterfield couldn't mark it. Onto it's Jordan. Hand pass to Papley. Met solidly by Cox. Wrapped him up, or Laverde rather, coming the other way. Got a hand pass out the side. Laverde involved again through Perkins. Now Heppel. Kicks towards the logo. Commentary wing. Beautifully weighted. Menzie. He marks and plays on. Off a step towards left half forward. Couldn't hit a target. And a good shepherd in the end from Rampy. Just put himself in the way of Hobbs. Allowed the ball to track past him and go over for a boundary throw-in. Left half forward for Essendon. Sydney lead by 10. 10-12-72 to the Bombers. 9-8-62. 19 gone in the third.
Needed to look open side there. He just... been very frustrating as a Essendon forward.
Struggling with some connection at the moment, the Bombers. They're under pressure. The Swans haven't made them pay. Setterfield's kick goes to centre half forward, punched away by Blakey. Coming out to meet it is Grundy. They work it off half back, the Swans. McLean. Now they squeeze it forward through Wicks to Jordan. Takes the mark, keeps on going. Could have got a goal himself. Decided to spot up Papley instead. And the Dynamo inside 50 for the Swans will kick it his third from 25 out in the slide angle, and he can break it out to a 16-point lead to Sydney.
Essendon need to do something here to just stop this run. I don't know what it is, but they've got to stop blazing away. They've got to force a few stoppages inside 50. They've got to make the boundary line their friend, because at the moment there's just too much drive and too much penetration going inside 50 for the Swans.
Three-time leading goal kicker at Sydney. He's having a massive game, Tom Papley. and he's got 3 goals to his name. Sydney 10-12, 78. Essendon 9-8, 62. And we're getting close to time on in the third term.
Well, it's the speed of ball movement, isn't it? It's the pace that they're moving through the middle of the ground. And when you're uncontested running inside 50 and you can hit Papley flush out, it's hard to stop for anyone. You see Mackay there trailing him out from the goal square, and there's not much you can do, but that's how dangerous they are when they get those turnovers. They're really, and we talked about it before, the run and gun, there hasn't been much in between for the Swans, has there? There hasn't been much tempo. It's all or nothing, and they're backing their skills in to cut through this Essendon defence.
They've got to do something just to get the ball inside deep and just force stoppages, use the boundary line as your friend, but Essendon need a score now to stop this Swans breaking away.
Jake Kelly was a late out for the Bombers. Alan Davey Jr. came into the side. He's still the unused sub. So the Bombers trying to take clearance out of the middle. Sarda's got it back by hand as far as Merritt in the centre circles. He kicks into the right forward pocket, waiting for it. Gresham, tackled by Florent. A hand pass forward. Menzies gathers nicely. Threw it on the right boot. Snapped but missed the lot. Out of bounds on the full. Sydney will have the free kick at left full back. Swans still lead by 16 points rather. 22 gone in the third term. Live footy on ABC Sport.
Wasted some chances in this third quarter, Essendon, as Roberts goes short to Blakey. And spots up Heaney on a lead at half-back. Possession number 23 coming up for Isaac Heaney. Sensational start to his 2024 season. Finds one of the new recruits. The biggest of them all, literally, in Brodie Grundy. He guides it further forward to Campbell. Pick 5 from the 2020 draft, Braden Campbell. On the outer side wing. Guides it forward to Corey Warner. He's overcooked that slightly. Out of bounds on the full. The Bombers will bring it back in from right half-back. They go short to Nick Martin. Guides it forward for Merritt. Goulden read that well. Off his hands, gathered by Nick Cox. Strong tackle on him by Campbell. McGrath picks it up nicely though. Works it up to Jai Menzies.
Working it forward again in front of the O'Reilly stand. Instead it's gone over the boundary line for a throw-in. Right half forward for Essendon.
Just feel defensively Swans have really picked it up, really emphasising that press. Just can't seem to get an out, Joel, at the moment, Essendon, whenever they've got it. Forcing it by hand.
Back into play. Goldstein stuck out the left hand, got front position, won it to ground, Setterfield to Perkins, couldn't take it cleanly. It's ricocheted away. Perkins tries to soccer it forward. Setterfield picked it up. Beautifully stolen by Florent for the Swans. To Lloyd. Hands it on to Heaney. To the outer wing they go. Stabbing it forward again. McLean. One-on-one inside forward 50. The kick was weighted perfectly. Magnificently done. Set it inside. And the mark taken deep inside the attacking 50 for Sydney. And a chance to go back and have a shot. No problems for Haywood. From no more than 35 out, he'll look for his third.
It's another turnover from half-back, isn't it? The Swans, they just weren't clean enough. Essendon, you talked about them trying to get through that zone, but you've got to be clean if you want to break through it. And they're able to turn around, come straight back through the middle. And there's too much space out the back there. Once they're through that first line of defence, there's plenty of space for those Swans forwards.
Will Haywood starts the approach. He kicked the Swans first of the night. Oh, that's a shocker. He's missed to the right-hand side. Behind for Sydney, 11-13-79 to 9-8-62. 23 gone in the third. Poppy Penny is downstairs.
Logan McDonald back on the ground after getting some stitches downstairs.
1 goal for Logan McDonald tonight as McGrath brings it back for the Bombers, sends it up to the wing. Durham roved it well and kicks to half forward from the back of the pack. Stringer just guided it down to Jai Menzies. He's watched closely though by Jake Lloyd. Swans fans and players appealed for out of bounds on the full, but it bounced in front of the boundary line. So a throw in, left half forward for Essendon, who need the next one badly. They kicked the first 2 of the game before the Swans had a disposal. And they now trail by 17 points, 24 and a half minutes gone in the third quarter. Here's Archie Perkins, tackled well by Goulden and dispossessed. James Jordan falls on Will Setterfield. They'll have a ball up at left half forward for the Bombers. Swans looking to go 3-0 to start the season. Essendon 1-0 coming into this one. Need to get the next one to get back into the game.
Draper won the tap down. Milliken got in the way. Hand pass intercepted though. Taken by Gresham. Shot on goal is through for a major, and that is simply magnificent from Stringer. Little mistake, turnover across half back for Sydney, and then Gresham involved after getting it originally from Martin, and Stringer snapped truly. He's a man when you need to stand up, who so often does. His first of the night. Essendon 10-8-68. It's got very quiet at the SCG. 11-13-79. 26 gone in the third.
Well, it's exactly what they needed, guys. They just needed to hit the scoreboard. Because, to be honest, in the very first half of this quarter, they had all the momentum. They had a lot of repeats inside 50, but the Swans have just absolutely just really put the heat on them in the last 10 minutes. But that was something just to really steady the ship and get them back into this game.
He was threatening to do that, Jake Stringer. 5 disposals for the quarter. 1 goal, 1 for the term as well after a quiet first half. Strong tackle in the middle of the ground by McInerney. He's caught Archie Perkins holding the ball just outside the centre circles, but he's dumped him in the tackle, according to the umpire, and now it's been reversed. So Perkins with the free kick. A reprieve for the Bombers, who trail by 11 points.
Have to get it in deep.
Late stages of the third term, Setterfield sends it deep inside attacking 50. McCartan had front position on the right and punched it away. Gresham roved it though. Goes backwards to Hind. Outside attacking 50. Merritt was in a bit of trouble. Got out of it. Back to McGrath. He's hemmed up on the boundary line though. High ball inside 50. Melican does well in the contest. Guides it down to Campbell. Now McInerney, Roberts and Warner with hands. To Heaney. They've done this beautifully, the Swans, to get out of defensive 50. Blakey has it. Finds Florent. He goes to centre half forward, and that's a rare error. Looking for Wicks. But Jordan was there to help. Now McInerney, he's got that many options. He finds Blakey. He wanted to play on, thought better of it. And wonderful work from the Swans out of defensive 50 to find Nick Blakey, 45 out directly in front with a shot on goal.
Corey Warner is desperate for his first goal. You just saw him there. He's done a couple of shots. He's been close a few times, but his body language is very frustrated then. Just hear that?
What a season he had last time out, Nick Blakey. Second in the Bob Skilton medal. Best and fairest at the Swans in the All-Australian squad. The cult hero of Sydney. The man they call the Lizard. They love him as much as any other. And he gets them going like no one else. That's a big goal. 12-13-85 Sydney. Essendon 10-8-68. Nick Blakey's on the board.
Joel, you played a lot more half-back than what I ever did, but surely Nick Blakey cannot be allowed to run from the back pocket in a chain, get 2 or 3 handball receives, then take a mark inside 50. At some point, you've got to, someone from Essendon has got to, I know it's hard, keep him accountable, I don't know, block his run, but it's just becoming too much.
Well, you'd hope so.
Yeah.
But it's obviously, it hasn't registered yet that he's a pretty dangerous half-back, so you'd hope someone goes to him. But is there anyone more electric than Nick Blakey when he gets the ball in his hands on half-back and he starts running? The crowd loves it. He's getting them involved, but you're right, there needs to be some accountability there from half-back. They've been able to do it at times, but not consistently enough to slow that ball movement down.
That's the voice of Joel Patfull alongside Callum Sinclair, our experts on live footy on ABC Sport. A restart. Swans look to wing it away. There's a free kick here. It's going the way of Essendon. Holding decision. Straight after the ruck contest. Merritt gets it, gives it to Martin. Gets away from Heaney. Kicks towards the outer wing. Dersmer allowed it to bounce and then gathered. Then got a kick into the right forward pocket. Over the top of Wright. McCartan knocked it back to Melican, who's happy to concede a throw-in inside his defensive 50. Stepping across the line, about 30 out from his defensive goal. Essendon to the left of our broadcast position, kicking the Don Bradman stand into the ground in this term. It'll be put back in. The telling tap. It comes out the side to Goulden. Kick towards the outer wing. McDonald looks to soccer it forward and beautifully waits at a through ball. McLean to run onto by hand to Papley. Breaks the attempted tackle of Mackay. Takes a bounce on centre wing. Kicks the Swans inside forward 50. Coming out, can't quite mark it then was Wicks. Trying to go again. Number of Swans players around it, but eventually it emerges. Corey Warner couldn't get there. It came out the side again. to Heppel. Clearing kick only as far as Roberts. Hand pass over the top. Campbell can't control it up against the boundary line. 51 out from the Swans attacking goal at left half forward. We've got ourselves a throw-in. Half an hour gone in the third. The Swans are 12-13-85. The Bombers 10-8-68. Live footy on ABC Sport. Clint Wilton in commentary alongside Daniel Garth.
Boundary throw-in just outside. Attacking 50 for Sydney. They need a quick kick. The seconds tick down in the third term. It's on the boot of Goulden and marked by McLean. That's exactly what they needed on the siren. Errol Goulden orchestrates it as he so often does. Off the rack contest, threw it on the boot. Hayden McLean tracked it and marked it. He'll kick from directly in front, 15 out.
Can you give Grundy a bit of a pump up for the tap guards?
That's your job as the ruck special comments man. So go for it, Cal Sinclair.
What a hit out.
I've waited for that one.
Yeah.
You could have given that more, Cal.
What a hit out. Just would have thought the expert caller would have, recognised that.
It was beautiful down to Goulden. McLean's taken the mark and converted from straight in front. His second. And that's a huge goal for Sydney. They've made a massive move in this third term. Challenged early by the Bombers. The lead is now 23 points. Sydney 13-13-91. Essendon 10-8-68. And the Premiership fancies have flexed their muscle.
They have indeed. 23 points their lead at three-quarter time. The Swans. Papley's gone 3. Haywood, McLean, Amati all with a couple. Then Blakey, McDonald, Heaney and Goulden, the other goal kickers. While for the Bombers, their goal kickers, 2 to Gresham, 2 to Wright, 2 to Langford, and singles to Stringer, to Cox, to Draper and to Goldstein. It's Sydney 13-13-91 to Essendon's 10-8-68. The Swans by 23 points as they try to go 3-0 to start season 2024. Wherever you're listening on ABC Radio, Sport, Digital and News Radio, this is live footy on ABC Sport.
G'day, this is Becky Cole inviting you to join me each week for Saturday Night Country. For more than 30 years, we've been playing the best in Australian country music, as well as the overseas artists that you know and love. So whether it's the classic tunes that you grew up with, the best new releases, or the interviews of your favourite acts, you'll find it all on Saturday Night Country. Saturday Night Country, hear it anytime on the ABC Listen app.
This is ABC Sports coverage of the 2024 AFL season. Every match on the ABC Listen app.
Look for the AFL button.
He'll just centre it up Amati with 2 goals to his name. To McDonald, who's taken a strong back mark. Logan McDonald's got his first of the night. The boy from Bunbury is now the main man inside forward 50 for Sydney. Perkins got the kick clear and now Wright's taking a big mark. 2-on-1 against him, Peter Wright, and he's outmarked Melican and McCartan. An eventful night for Peter Wright. Collected Harry Cunningham early, but he's got 2 goals to his name. He's working his way through that.
Working forward, Corey Warner. Now on in turn to Goulden from 51 out. It's bouncing, it's through. That is simply sensational. As the Swans, they put their lead out again. Oh, Errol.
But Jordan was there to help. Now McInerney, he's got that many options. He finds Blakey. He wanted to play on, thought better of it. The cult hero of Sydney, the man they call the Lizard. They love him as much as any other. And he gets them going like no one else. That's a big goal.
The 2024 AFL Premiership season.
On your radio,
ABC Sport Digital.
and on the ABC Listen app.
The sounds of the third term. Live footy on ABC Sport. Sydney had a 4-point lead at halftime. They stretch it out to 23 points at the end of the third quarter. Errol Goulden, 7 disposals, 3 inside 50s, a couple of score involvements and a big goal for the Swans. Their star name made an impact in that third term. The Bombers just couldn't quite go with them, Cal Sinclair and Joel Patfull.
Yeah, they couldn't, and it was that run from half-back that we talked about, Blakey running through the middle. They haven't been able to stop it, and they haven't had an answer for it, Essendon. And they just started to kick away towards the end of that quarter, the Swans. And that's where it's going to be won or lost in this last quarter. It's whether they can make that change and adjust and get some turnovers through the middle of the ground, get those repeat entries inside 450 and give their forwards a chance rather than letting the Swans run free and hit their targets inside 50.
Well, the solution is quite simple. Actually play on him. Like Joel, you and I just watched a passage of footy just on a replay just before. How he's allowed to run from back pocket. It's been happening all night. Literally get inside the forward 50. He was standing there for about 10 seconds and no one absolutely going near him at a pretty important part of the game. If you're going to sit there and kind of say, you know, the game's won in the midfield, well, not really, to be honest, because the stats aren't actually showing that. Essendon clearances 32-21. Clearances in total 32-21. So you'd say that Essendon's midfield has actually been pretty good. I don't know if probably the Essendon forwards need to be quite accountable for that half-back, because that's the only way they've actually stayed in this game, and it's the only way that Sydney have scored.
Well, it's been a theme throughout the game. We talked about Heaney and Goulden being able to run through the middle of the corridor. It's almost like Essendon have been great at the contest, but once it's spread from there, they haven't been able to go over the Swans, and that's where they've got away from them.
And also ball in hand, what you should be doing tactically now, I hope Brad Scott's doing this, is slowing the ball down, playing real tempo footy, bringing Peter Wright, Draper, Langford, Cox, Stringer. They've actually been pretty good overhead tonight. They haven't been too bad. Bring those guys into the game for a few long down the line contests, because it'll slow the Swans down, but there's got to be some accountability for their halfbacks.
They were so fierce early, Essendon. I mean, they brought it to Sydney the first two of the game. There were a couple of physical incidents. One, obviously, Peter Wright and Harry Cunningham, that will be talked about and might incur a suspension of a few weeks potentially at the tribunal. But outside of that, I mean, they really took it to Sydney and out-muscled them at times. How hard is it to maintain that at a place like this against a team like this with their stars for four quarters? Has that been an impact, just the tiring of the Bombers perhaps?
No, you're spot on. That sort of physicality and attitude does actually take up a lot of energy, and it's very hard to sustain for four quarters. So to be honest, I think probably they had a lapse, particularly in the back half of that third quarter. But I don't know, they need some big moments in this last quarter to get back in this game, because you know how Sydney play. They're just going to break it away.
Well, it's when your pre-season comes through. It's round 2. You're a little bit more tired than round 1. You need to back it up. You need your key players to stand up. You need Mackay down back to really assert himself, take some intercept marks, get the ball going forward. McGrath, key players like that to get them going.
Final term underway. Sydney's lead 23 points. Can they go 3-0 to start the year? Only got the tap. Umpires spotted a free kick. It's going to come back into the middle. Chad Warner stabs it short. Able to find Wicks. Wicks looks to go on with a little hand pass to Warner, who continued his run. Chad Warner then spins around and hands it off to Goulden in the left forward pocket. He put it out in front of Grundy. Couldn't mark. Got a hand pass away. Hayward will snap for another one. Will Hayward's got 3. Just the start Sydney wanted.
The ruckman was pretty good below his knees too, Mel Sinclair. I thought that was all class from Grundy.
It was good. He went to ground though, which I don't think, is probably an improvement area for him. But
Sydney by 29 points. 14-13-97 to Essendon's 10-8 68. We've gone less than a minute in the final term.
I don't want to harp on about this, Joel, but once again, you can't allow Chad Warner to just run off like that. It's complete laziness from, I don't know, you will start with their midfield, but their forwards have got to kind of press up. I don't know how he can actually take that ball, literally run and have no one on him. Same with Goulden as well. I don't know where the accountability is from Essendon at the moment.
Well, it's that power running from stoppage where he's been able to get out, and the Essendon players at the moment, it looks like they just can't go with him.
Yeah.
Concerning for the Bombers, 30 seconds into the last term, after being blitzed in the third quarter. They give up a pretty easy goal, it must be said. The Swans able to just pick out targets inside their own attacking 50 at will and stretch it out to a 29-point lead. Draper wins it. Here's Perkins. Handball over the top, looking for Nick Cox. He's matched well by Roberts in the contest. The Swans win it back. Warner with energy. Goes the 1-2 with McInerney. McInerney opts for Grundy instead. He marked in front of Nick Martin cleanly. Just forward of the wing, in front of the Bombers dugout, commentary side. Grundy waves off a couple of options. Sends it deep into attack. Hayward with 3 goals to his name is at front position. Papley roves it. Sweeping handball over the top for Ollie Florin on the snap. tumbling ball from Florent, who has played 95 consecutive games, 5th best streak in the AFL at the moment. Through throw behind. Sydney 14-14, 98, 30-point lead over the Bombers, 10-8, 68.
Bombers need to get going if there's any chance. 5 goals behind now. On their defensive 50 to Durham. 51 for him tonight. 22-year-old looks to move it short. Essendon down the line through Martin. And turn to Langford. Just a little bit shy of the interchange gates. Commentary wing. Langford stabs it. Finds a teammate who can mark. It's Durham again. Trot back to stand. Right on halfway on centre wing, commentary side. We'll get told to move it on. Congested forward line for the Bombers. The kick goes high. Draper wanted it. Punch at the back came from the Swans. Chad Warner spilled his way. Worked it out to Milliken. Now on in turn to Goulden. He'll stab it short in front of Wicks. Does he keep it in? Not that time. And the frustration from the Swans fans is we might have seen an incident earlier on where the ball was, dare I say it, that was out of bounds when it wasn't called back. And the goal resulted. I think on that case, those downstairs might have got it right. Reckon it was out of bounds. They're going to put it back into play. Draper wins the tap. Rowbottom gathers and then got tackled immediately. The ball comes out the back, rugby ruck style, and then more players will pile on top of it. Ball up will be the call. Still on centre wing commentary side. The Swans lead. 4 minutes gone in the last term by 30 points.
8 tackles for James Rowbottom. Chad Warner said this week he'd be the first player picked if he was starting a new team. Such as his impacts in the middle of the ground. He makes everyone around him better. High praise from Chad Warner for James Rowbottom. Ball's gone out over the boundary line, right forward pocket for Essendon. Back-to-back top 3 finishes in the Club Champion Award. Underrated no more, James Rowbottom, it's fair to say.
Well, you do need those players in your team to make guys like Warner and Heaney flourish. You can't have 3 of those guys in the midfield.
Grundy works his way to the front. Merritt picks it off his hands, though. McCartan's under pressure and mowed down by Merritt. That's holding the ball. Brilliant by the Bombers skipper to catch Tom McCartan holding the ball 5 metres out from his own goals. And Merritt can get one back for Essendon now, and boy do they need it. This will take it back to a 24-point lead to Sydney.
No, I definitely will echo the words of regarding James Rowbottom. It's his number one strength is his physicality in the contest.
That was the James Rowbottom type tackle from Zach Merritt on a man much bigger than him in Tom McCartan. A captain's tackle and goal. Important from Merritt. The Bombers 11-8-74, trailing the Swans 14-14, 98 by 24 points. 5 minutes gone in the last quarter.
And they're the acts they need to get them back in this game, the Bombers. Zach Merritt, undersized there, brought him to ground. If you get, you start there. If you get 2 or 3 on board, follow the leader, start to get that turnover game going, and you build it from there. It's not going to happen at once, but they can still get this game back on their terms.
Rowbottom with a equal career high at best of 13 tackles last week. 8 tackles to his name so far tonight. 105 metres game. 5 disposals as well.
Broke the single season tackling record for Sydney last season with 176.
A great bounce. They'll let this one play. Grundy tapped it over his shoulder. Heaney couldn't quite take it. Chad Warner could. Stripped from him. Spilled out again. Rowbottom. His hand pass stolen by the Bombers. Here's Draper from the top of the 50-metre arc. Kicks towards the hot spot. No one can mark it. Goldstein looked to tap it back. Swans must rush it through. Eventually they do. It's a bit of a mess. Lloyd and then Milliken eventually tapping it through for a rush behind. 14-14, 98. Plays 11-9, 75. 6 and a bit gone in the last. Sydney's lead cut to 23 points.
2-time best and fairest winner, Jake Lloyd, brings it back in. Punched away from Heaney by Durham. Heaney pleading to the umpire, saying he was held. Umpire doesn't even look at him. Probably the best way to handle matters. 23 points, the lead for the Swans. Boundary throw in, right half forward for Essendon, who are just working their way into this last term, asking some questions of the home side. Draper with a big thump from behind Grundy. Stringer tries to gather it. Heaney watching him closely. Rampy tried to pull that in under his own ruckman. Eventually it works its way out to Rowbottom. Throws it on the boot. McDonald will guide across the pack. Heppel did well, though, to influence the contest and bring it to ground. Strong tackle by Hayward. Ball up on the logo on the wing. The game just in a holding pattern right now, looking to break either way. And the Bombers are not going away.
Still, they haven't made their substitution. On Davey Jr. Still with the vest on. Sydney forced to make their substitution with the injury to Cunningham after being knocked out. Trying to work it away here, the Swans. A little bit of almost hand tennis with the football as Heaney eventually worked it out towards Jordan. Back to Heaney on centre wing. Kicks towards left half forward. That's a great mark. Amadi is up. Strong grab. Hard up against the boundary line. 70 from goal. From left half forward, he kicks the full forward for Sydney. And McDonald was just walked out from underneath the football that allowed Martin to take the defensive mark. The kick goes to left half back, and now here's a chance for Merritt.
Merritt has a couple of bounces past the logo on the outer wing. Looks for his options. Goldstein is one of them. Guided McCartan under the football. The big man is chasing this. The ball will beat him over the line and through for a behind. There's going to be a free kick paid anyway. It'll go to Tom McCartan for a push. A little bit humorous watching the big man Goldstein lope towards that. McCartan will just poke it short to Nick Blakey on his own defensive 50 line.
Switches on if the Swans want to go that way.
Don't man up Nick Blakey. It's crazy.
Blakey's allowed to just trundle to his left. Kicks down the outer wing. Verde couldn't mark. Opposite 15 weeks picks it up. Hand pass went through the hands of Corey Warner. Rowbottom was there to mop up. Here's Corey Warner again. Hand passes to Chad. And then Chad Warner sends it towards goal. It's missing left. A minor score. Another behind to the Swans. They're edging towards the 100. 14-15-99 to 11-9-75. 9 gone last term.
Warner Brothers combining.
They'd have a few good productions, wouldn't they?
Warner Brothers involved in the AFL this week.
Exactly.
Had to be negotiated with over the Tasmanian Devil's name until they were told that it is actually an animal, which they didn't know. Amusingly. That ended negotiations.
Amazing.
Dersma. Short to Andy McGrath, just outside defensive 50 for Essendon. The Bombers need to get going. Good ball to Goldstein. Got out in front of Tom McCartan, marked on his chest, gets on his left foot quickly. Melican read that so well, though. Got in front of Blankford, double-fisted it over the boundary line. Just outside attacking 50 for Essendon, who trail by 24 points. We've gone 10 minutes in the last quarter.
Did you sign up?
Not yet.
I have.
They don't need any help at the moment. There's 110,000 members of those or so. But
is it even going ahead?
Well, we'll find out a bit later tonight, won't we, with the state election. This ball's taken back towards the boundary line. Chad Warner in hot pursuit, got bumped over by Hobbs. And then Rowbottom goes in just to let Hobbs know that he wasn't that impressed. It was over the line for a throw-in. No, I signed up. Got the sticker pack.
Given enough money to Tasmania recently in terms of golf, as Cal Sinclair has as well. Definitely support the state.
Absolutely.
I'll get around to it.
Throwing in as Grundy goes forward and then slipped over, got knocked in the head. It wasn't deliberate. He's a little bit worse for wear, Grundy. He stayed down. It spills back to Campbell. There's a long-range shot. And the goal's being kicked by Merritt, who gathers and sends it through. Merritt's now got a couple. It's coming off the ground as well after snapping truly. There is still some life in this game. 11 minutes left. 11 minutes gone, rather, in the final term. The Swans leaders capped at 3 goals. Essendon 12-9-81 to Sydney's 14-15-99 on live footy on ABC Sport.
Oh, Merritt's just been absolutely super, particularly in their second half. In that third quarter as well there, Joel, he did that terrific tackle there on Chad Warner, but showing real leadership in this last quarter to basically get these boys back in the game. Terrific quick tick there on the snap. 35 out. Just interesting to watch the Essendon boys not get around him as much as I kind of would have thought. They're back in this game now.
Couple of big captain's goals from Zach Merritt. 2 in a row for him. 18 points to lead for Sydney. They're just chipping away, Essendon. Their skipper leading the way. Secondary ball up from the centre bounce. Goldstein guides it down to Sardis and the Bombers win it again. They send it inside 50. Bounces in front of Peter Wright. Leads Melican to the footy after they turn for it. Strong tackle by Langford. on Jake Lloyd. We'll have a ball up, right forward pocket for Essendon, who are surging down to Poppy Penny on the boundary.
Guys, it looks like it's Draper who's been subbed off. I'm just waiting for confirmation, but Alwyn Davey Jr. into the game.
Interesting call by Brad Scott to get some run. It is Draper's first game of the season. Perhaps he was starting to tire. He's had an influence. Meanwhile, Heppel's got it. 70 out from the Bombers' goals. The veteran onto his left. Essendon keep coming. McLean's back there doing some pinch-hitting work in the ruck. He taps it over the boundary line. Boundary throw in right forward pocket for Essendon, who are back within 3 goals.
Well, it's a crucial time of the game, isn't it, Garb? You called it before, it was in a bit of a holding pattern. It seems like Sydney have just dropped their intensity a little bit here, and if Essendon can sneak 1 goal here, the game's back on.
The Swans give the Bombers another opening. Wright does the ruck work. Spilled out. Florent looked to slap it forward. It came to Perkins straight away. Hayward provided pressure. A swing and a miss from Stringer. He should have picked it up, and the Swans can clear towards right half back. He'd be frustrated. Well done there by Corey Warner. Hand pass on. McInerney tapped it along the boundary line. Eventually it got away from him and went over for a throw-in right in front of the Bill O'Reilly stand. Centre wing, outer side of the ground at the SCG. Sydney's lead remains 3 goals. 14-15, 99 to 12-9, 81. 14 gone in the last.
Goldstein and McLean. There's a whistle on the plane. A free kick to Goldstein.
Holding.
In his second game as a Bomber. He's been asked to do the ruck work with Draper subbed out. This important last term. Looks for Peter Wright. Off his hands. It's gathered by Heaney. Palms off Gresham. And got him high. So it's a free kick to Essendon. Oh, the Swans fans won't like this. Heaney gave the don't argue to Jade Gresham, but we all know about his diminutive size. And he's caught him high. He goes for the lead of Wright. And the Swans have won it back. Here's Braden Campbell.
Campbell thumps it long. It's a massive kick. He wanted McDonald the outer side, and Ben Mackay's done well. Got in front. Spoils and sees it over the line for a throw-in. That's a monstrous kick out of the fence.
Is that the best choice from Gresham, considering the stage of the game? You've kicked it to a more dangerous area, perhaps.
Top of the goal square, just make a contest, force the pressure.
The restart. Bombers look to work it away. Durham put his head over the football, went straight into a Swan wall. It's been held in.
It's a good point that you made, Garbs. They've actually got to work out what actually works for them. In the first quarter, as penetrating kicks top of the square worked.
Hind and Heaney continue to battle on afterwards as Essendon get the clearance and send it towards left half forward. McCartan over the top of the footy, but he hand passed it to Gresham. They move it to Stringer in the left forward pocket. Hand pass for Menzies to run onto. He tapped it to Langford, crunched in a tackle. Ball's jarred out. Gresham has another go, can only put it through for a minor score. What a great tackle from Rampy. If that tackle wasn't made, that looked to be a goal for all money. It was sitting there. Langford gathered. Bang! Wonderful stuff from the Swans defensively.
He's the heart and soul of the Sydney Swans, Dane Rampy. Massive intervention, but then Alwyn Davey responds to wrap up McInerney, and the Bombers win it back, and they've marked it inside 50. What an enthralling game of football this is, because Essendon will not go away, and now Jade Gresham can kick it his third and peg this back to just 11 points with over 10 minutes remaining in the contest.
This is what they've got to do. They've got to actually play a lot more territory. I know quick kicks aren't great to watch, but it does work. I think their overuse of the handball at times, the unusual kicks going inside 50, trying to maybe invent something that doesn't work. Territory game, Gresham's got into it.
If Gresham kicks this, they'll go for Alwyn Davey Jr. Don't worry about that. He has kicked it. It was Alwyn Davey Jr.'s run down and tackle in the middle of the ground that has set up Gresham's third. And the Sydney Swans have a massive challenge to answer. Essendon with a big final turn, the 13-10-88, after trailing by close to 30 points. I think it was 29 at one stage. The Swans' lead is back to 11. Sydney are 14-15-99.
Well, you've got to be impressed by the way Essendon's hung around. They were probably a goal away from being out of the game 5 minutes ago, and they've been able to scrap their way back in. And that's the impact you want from a sub. He's come on, hasn't got a mark, kick or possession for it. Run down tackle, turnover, and it's a goal. So how much time we got left? There's still plenty of time. The game's on.
There is more than enough. 34,954 in. But they've seen Sydney, who led by 30 points, 2:19 into this quarter, now lead by just 11. Fight back from the Bombers has been brilliant. Sydney trying to soccer it out of the middle. Getting back there, Perkins can't gather. Rowbottom gathers and then kicks it straight into Martin. Ball ricochets back into the middle of the ground again. From the centre square to Florent. He worked it out to Grundy. He's on centre wing, out of sight of the ground. Looks to chip it forward, measures the kick. It was perfect. It needed to be as well, and they can build once more here. Chance to set it up here through McInerney. He'll look to pop it into the right forward pocket. Gordon running with it, juggled it, marked it. 40 out from goal, 45-degree angle to the right.
He times it well, Gordon. Very smart footballer going inside 50. Watching the replay now, just really just put the Essendon forwards or come up the ground asleep and just slot it into that gap about 35, 40 metres out. Very smart.
Kicked a sensational goal earlier on tonight. This for a much-needed steadier for Sydney. Sends it on its way. He's happy about it, and so too is the mass of red and white at the SCG. The lead is stretched out to 17 points as Errol kicks his second. 15-15, 105. Essendon 13-10, 88. 19 gone in the last. Live footy on ABC Sport. Clint Wilden and Daniel Garb, your commentary team, our experts, Cal Sinclair and Joel Patfull.
Probably sums up the night a bit there, I think. It's Essendon effort, intensity, great around the contest, and they just let their guard down there and open play. You can't leave a player like Gordon. He's standing outside 50 with no one around him, and then it's a short lead inside 50, unmanned, no one within 10 metres of him, so he's too dangerous to be left alone like that.
I think that's where Essendon have just let themselves down. It's just concentration, particularly of a player like Errol.
Sydney needed a response. There's no bigger figure in the side at the moment than Errol Goulden. He provided it. But the Bombers are still in this game. The margin, 17 points, plenty of time left. But Sydney winning out of the middle through McInerney, who chisels it onto the chest of McLean. 2 in a row for the Swans, might just do it. Lovely ball from McInerney. The clean out to meet it. He'll kick from 45 out, almost directly in front.
Tell you what, it's a terrific kick coming outside of the centre bounce. Not too much a key defender can do there when it's coming that hard. Straight down Hayden McLean's throat. Let's hope he can put this one through for his third.
Bombers fans hoping he misses, of course, to stay in this game. McLean looking for his third. Not his best effort.
Just leant back in it.
So, Essendon still alive. Sydney 15-16, 106. The Bombers 13-10, 88. A clean 3 goals the lead. And we've got under 8 minutes to go.
There's still time. Free kick in the middle of the ground. That won't help Essendon's cause. It's gone to Rowbottom. And have it. His commentary edge of the centre circles. Puts it back inside the forward 50. Haywood thought he got a little nudge. Not paid. McGrath back to Mackay. Then to Laverde. Now to Dersma in the left back pocket for the Bombers, who turns it over. Kick to Roberts, who marks it right half forward for Sydney. He's 70 from goal. One more would do it. Stabs it into the right forward pocket. McGrath leapt up into the air and was able to make sure that he got enough of a touch on it to get it away from Haywood and see it over the boundary line for a throw-in. 20 out from the Swans' goal. 21 gone in the last. It's still the Swans by 18 points over the Bombers. Live footy on ABC Sport.
Goldstein and Grundy, couple of warhorses of the AFL. Whistle on the play, free kick to Grundy. The Bombers have their hands on their heads. They can't believe it. Nick Hind, exasperated in conversation with the umpire. In fact, it's been paid for a hold on Papley. It's not going Grundy's way. So He's been a bit quiet in this last term. That suggests that the Bombers have watched Papley really closely. An iffy free kick, perhaps. Papley will not mind. Looking for his fourth. And perhaps the sealer. No man celebrates more at Sydney than Tom Papley. And he deserves it tonight. He has been brilliant. 4 to his name. And that takes the margin out to 4 goals. 16-16, 112 the Swans. Essendon 13-10, 88. And that might just do it.
It's always a tough call, that one around a stoppage, but I think what the umpire sees here, as soon as you have your back to play, it draws the umpire's attention. So Hine had his back to the play, had the arms around, probably didn't take him as much as you would have thought to be a holding the man free kick, but just brings the attention, hold a few, and then lets him go. A pretty crucial goal in the scheme of things.
I'll tell you right now, Tom Papley had forward 50 stoppages at training. He actually, in a way, practices trying to get held. That makes sense. He practices putting himself in positions that are very dangerous and very uncomfortable for small defenders.
So just carefully, because I need to get out if you're alive. That was Ticky Touchwood stuff. Goal to decide a game like that, which it will now.
Probably a payback for the one on the boundary line.
The one that was out of bounds.
Yeah.
Here's Merritt for the Bombers. Kicks to the outer side of the ground. He's Hine involved. Marks and plays on. Spears it inside forward 50. Blakey's hurt himself. He tried to spoil that. Hit the ground hard. Trying to work it on to Langford, the Bombers. They work it around again to Gresham and then finds Merritt, and he'll pop it into the left forward pocket. And here is Langford. It was the original target a moment ago. Blakey is up. Certainly landed awkwardly. The Bombers to have any hope. Langford can't mess around, and he must kick truly from hard up against the boundary line in the left forward pocket. He curls it, but narrow, missing to the left. Minor score. 13-11-89 Essendon. 16-16, 112 the Swans. 24 gone in the last.
A fortunate free kick it might have been, but he's had a monstrous night, Tom Papley. 23 disposals, 12 score involvements, 10 marks and 4 goals.
I think I just saw Nick Hine, Papley's opponent, help him with a cramp.
Well, everything else has failed in terms of trying to control Papley tonight. Might as well help him as McLean marks on the outer side. Fires it up to the wing. Grundy's there, just tries to knock it forward. Goes over the boundary line. In front of the Bill O'Reilly stand. Famous stand at this wonderful venue in Australian sport. And is going to have some energy around it all season long for the Bloods. A massive premiership fancy after making the grand final in 2022. A disappointing season last time out by their standards. They have come back in a massive way. New recruits, energetic style, and they are set to be 3-0 as Heaney handballs to Goulden, gets it back over the shoulder from Goulden with the handball, and now Warner looking inboard and finding McInerney diving backwards, couldn't take the mark. Davey Jr.'s there, just soccers one forward. It's gathered by Matt Roberts though. It'll come back inside attacking 50, and Roberts has spotted Jake Lloyd, who might fancy a shot at goal. As we said earlier, playing his 200th game alongside Dane Rampy tonight, Jake Lloyd. Two-time best and fairest winner. An amazing contributor in defensive 50 for the Swans. This will put an exclamation mark on another Sydney win. Needed the extra distance, and that affected the accuracy of the kick. The Sydney lead is 24 points, 16-17, 113 over Essendon, 13-11, 89.
Where do the Bombers go? Martin. It's a heppy. Deep in the right back pocket. Still marks. Takes a couple of steps inboard and then kicks to the commentary wing. Right underneath it, Blakey. Spoiled it to ground, bounced back to him, and it's held him. We'll have ourselves a ball up. A terrific game. Margin at the end of it, possibly not doing credit to how tough it was throughout the contest. 24 points the lead for Sydney. McGrath Gets the hand pass originally from Setterfield. You kick McGrath towards right half forward. Then will bounce inside the forward 50. Langford hands it over the top. Here's Stringer to run it along the ground for a goal for the Bombers. Stringer's got his second with that. Essendon with their 14th. 14-11-95. They still trail Sydney by 18 points. 16-17, 113.
Tell you what, it's just probably too little too late there for the Essendon Footy Club, but they've shown glimpses of a fight probably in the second half, Joel, of staying in there, but overall I just think the Swans have just probably been too classy. Appears a little bit too more sorry, I can't get more bloody words out. Experience. I'll let you take over. I've had a shocker.
Yeah, I mean, I've been impressed by the Essendon to hang in there and to finish off. I mean, they've 95 points at the SCG against the Sydney Swans is no mean feat. That's really difficult to do. So they've looked dangerous when they've had the ball in their hands.
We've got Darcy Parish to come back into the team. And Bombers fans will be encouraged enough by their start to the season. Took it to Sydney early on. Still in this game, but they need a couple of quick ones from here as the Swans soccer it forward. Heppel's there with Hayward. Jostling away, it falls the way of Heaney. Handball to centre half forward. Just evades Warner, but he beats Sardis to it. Nick Martin's there under pressure. Loses his feet. Warner can gather. Gets on his left. Snaps true. Swans home. Warner with his first. To cap off another wonderful individual game from him. And Sydney's leads back out to 24 points. 17-17, 119. The Bombers 14-11, 95.
No, you are right. He's been absolutely superb start of this season, and even just that goal there, he hunted that goal. He just absolutely wanted it. And a terrific finish. And just, once again, we've probably spoken about it or not, but his ability to change direction on a dime. Just looking at his stats now. 1 goal, 26 touches, I believe. 13 kicks, 12 handballs. 6 marks, 3 tackles. 3 clearances, sorry. No bad representation out there, Chad Warner is for the Sydney Swans.
Williams sent us a text message from Hobart. A fair few players on the ground tonight will be on Tasmania's agenda come 2028, speaking of the new site. They certainly will be. As Essendon will get the clearance, chain of hand passes, and then leads to a kick. Really forward 50, unable to take the mark was Cox. Gave it back to Durham. Now here's McGrath. Puts it towards Stringer, who marks 55 from goal at right half forward. Sends it towards the teeth of the top of the goal square and up to mark. They've mopped that up beautifully. A chance here for Ollie Florent to just settle things down again. Sydney's lead remains 24 points. 30 minutes gone in the final term.
The star names for the Swans have shone yet again. Heaney, Warner, Goulden, Papley. So many solid contributors. McInerney's had a good game. He switches it across his own defensive 50. As the Sydney chant resonates around the SCG. And the red and white fans loving the start to the season. 3 and zip as Roberts finds Heaney on a long lead on the outer wing. 32nd disposal coming up for Isaac Heaney. A massive start to his season. 19 of a possible 20 coaches' votes, and you'll probably get a few more tonight. There's Papley roving, finding Jordan at right half forward. The kick on goal from Jordan bounces through for his first goal as a Sydney Swan since moving over from Melbourne. And what a way to bring it up. Right up on the boundary line in front of the Swans faithful. Guided a few through beautifully. Take the Swans out to a 30-point lead.
I think he celebrated with the supporters behind the fence before his teammates. That's a cracking goal. Great story for the footy club to bring him in. Going to be quite interesting, Joel, probably see where he his spot probably in the team lies when Adams, Mills and Parker kind of come back in that team. Does he kind of fall out to a sub? Does he stay in the side, or does he spend some weeks outside of the team? It's hard to say, but it's going to be a hard midfield to break into.
They got a few big calls coming up, don't they, in the next few weeks when those guys come back, because they're looking so dangerous. And
healthy.
One thing they probably don't need is inside players. Their spread and the speed from contest at the moment is so damaging.
Restart. Sydney bring it forward again quickly. They kick inside their attacking 50. All spills away then from Heppel defensively. Here's Chad Warner again. Grabs the football. Icing on the cake. Chad Warner gets his second. It's party time at the SCG now. Challenged throughout the contest. They're running away with it, the Swans. Their biggest lead of the night comes at the 33-minute mark at the last. 19-17, 131. To Essendon, 14-11, 95. They're up by 36 points, the home team.
Yeah, he's just a terrific footballer, Chad Warner. I think that's just the strength of a lot of these guys like Warner, Goulden, Papley, McInerney, even to an extent. They've just got great finishing skills. Particularly Warner and Errol at that stage of the game. Absolutely terrific.
We talk about pre-seasons as well and how fit he was looking. Like, he looks like he's covering the ground as well now as what he did in the first quarter, and it really separates him from the rest of the players that are looking to slow down a bit.
He also said this week that Errol Goulden's season last year drove him on in a healthy way. I mean, he was the main man, and then Errol had the season out of the box, and that snapped Chad into action even more.
Look at him go now.
He's going to get on the end of this one on the wing. Ducks under Zach Merritt's tackle, has a bounce. 2 goals to his name, 27 disposals. He's loving life. Now Jake Lloyd will slow it down. Into the final minute of the contest, 34-minute mark of the last. Swans up by 36 points. Into attack it goes again for Sydney. Free kick paid to Martin. Hobbs, who was being quiet, came in for Parrish. Marks at centre-half back. They challenged the Swans, Essendon, no doubt about that, especially early on. But it is hard to stick with this slick Sydney side at the minute, the way in which they're travelling. Hobbs looks for Langford. Cutting in front of him was McInerney. Durham taps it to himself. Langford hooks one around. It's on target.
It's all right.
Bounces on the goal line and then comes back in. Gresham's there, and he smartly spots up Stringer, who can kick for his third and peg the margin back to 30 points in favour of Sydney. Time ticking down, siren set to sound.
It's hard to stop, isn't it, Sydney, when they've got momentum as a team? It's just so well connected.
Another big win for Sydney. 3 and zip to start the season. They were unashamedly all in on a flag in the pre-season. It is tracking in the right direction. The Stringer waltzes in, kicks his third. The margin will be 30 points. Essendon will take positives out of this football game. But once again, a big talking point is a Sydney Swans start to the season.
The Sydney Swans. The Bombers had 2 goals before they'd had a single disposal, but they fought back to lead by 3 points at quarter time, by 4 at the half, 23 at 3/4 time before going on to win by 30. 19-17, 131 to Essendon's 15-11, 101. They're 3 and zip to start 2024.
Cheer, cheer the red and the white. Honour the name by day and by night. Lift that noble banner high. Shake down the thunder from the sky. Whether the odds be great or small, Swans will go in and win overall. But
the top of the ladder, Sydney fans. It might only last 24 hours, but right now, on Saturday night of round 2, it's Sydney who looks down upon everybody else. 3-0. What a start to the year. And they were made to work for this, which makes, in many ways, their 30-point win over the Bombers even more credible. The goal kickers tonight, Papley with 4, Haywood with 3. 2 goals to Chad Warner, to McLean, to Goulden and to Amati, and singles to Blakey, to Jordan, to Heaney and to McDonald. Outstanding work from all of them. They were terrific tonight, the Sydney Swans. Also have to mention the efforts of Brodie Grundy in the ruck. Well, for the Bombers, 3 goals to Gresham, 3 to Stringer, 2 to Wright, 2 to Langford, singles to Draper, to Cox and to Goldstein. Sydney by 30 points in front of a crowd nearly 35,000. Bombers make their way off the ground. This wasn't as close as recent battles between these teams have been on the scoreboard at the end of proceedings, but our experts Callum Sinclair and Joel Patfull, it was a real contest for most of this one. What did you make of it?
Yeah, it was, and it probably ended up being a bigger scoreline, a bigger margin, than what it felt like on the night. But I mean, the Swans were just, after that first 10 minutes, they got caught off guard, but the Swans really got going in that second half, and the footy they're playing at the moment is exciting, it's powerful, and it's almost a different kind of Sydney Swans team than what we've seen in the past. They're usually a contested side, tough in and under, but they're actually getting on the spread. They're breaking the lines, and it's Blakey off half back, and it's Goulden. Chad Warner through the middle has just been unbelievable. So it's an exciting brand of footy that they're playing, and if they continue to play like this, they're going to do some real damage.
It seems from the start of pre-season, you could tell watching a couple of practice games, they wanted to be less predictable, Sydney. They wanted to have more variety in their game. Bringing in guys like Jordan and then Adams. Okay, Adams hasn't played yet, but introducing Heaney into the midfield. You don't quite know where players are going to be at any point in time. You don't quite know who's going to be on the ball. They've got a lot more flexibility in their team coming into the season. It seems as if it's been something John Longmire targeted in the break, and at the moment it's working really well for them with big names to come back to.
Well, I think Swans probably were criticised for a long period of time about being a little bit too predictable, particularly around stoppage. Over my time when I did play there, we played we played big chunks of how we used to play where, to be honest, weren't that overly exciting. However, no, it did work for us to a certain point, but you are right, the team absolutely did have to evolve. Dare I say it, I think what's helped, particularly going inside 50, is not having Buddy there. He's an absolute superstar, and I don't mean that as a criticism. I'm saying he's an absolute superstar. He draws a lot of attention, and as Joel's played on him many times, he can do unbelievable things. But what you're seeing now at the Swans forward line is just the absolute spread of goal kickers. McLean, Logan McDonald, Isaac Heaney, Joel Amati's popped up for 2 tonight. Sam Wicks gets up there. Papley's kicked 4. What other team in the competition is having that spread of goal kickers up forward? Chad Warner's come in for 2 goals as well. So it's you are right, they're extremely unpredictable now, but if you're an opposition team playing the Swans, you've got to sort out that half back line for the Swans. I don't know how that's I think Essendon, when they go in next to review that tape on Monday, I think their high half forwards will probably need to have a chat to them.
Yeah, well, it feels like the Swans half-back have got the licence to just run and go and take off, and it's working for them now when it's going. It's really exciting for, like we talked about. Probably the other side of that is that they did get opened up on the back a few times. Correct. So that's going to be to find that balance of when they can run and when they can go, and when they have to actually stop, defend, have a look around so they don't create that space over the back.
Just a couple of leading possession getters. So Isaac Heaney, another big game, 32 disposals and a goal, 13 score involvements. Chad Warner, 28 possessions, 14 score involvements, 2 goals. Goulden had 24 with a couple of goals as well. Tom Papley was massive, 4 goals for him from 24 touches. James Rowbottom only 10 possessions, but 9 tackles. He leads the way in that regard. Didn't Zach Merritt have a big game for Essendon? Led the way enormously. 32 touches, a couple of big goals in the last term as they threaten once more. Nick Martin with 31 down back. Setterfield had 29, McGrath 25. And there are a number of contributors in the middle of the ground, but they just couldn't go with the superstars of the Swans.
Interesting little stat. Jake Lloyd and Dane Rampy tonight. 200 games as teammates. Certainly worth mentioning as well.
Absolutely.
Big round of applause for the Swans as they make their way down into the rooms. Carton leading the way. Plenty of high fives from Marty too. Those in red and white, they've got every right to be delighted with that performance and that win tonight.
Serviceable players for the Sydney Swans, Dane Rampy and Jake Lloyd.
Serviceable.
I mean that with all due respect.
Just take the tongue out of your cheek.
Two-time. But I think people forget this about Jake Lloyd. He's a two-time Bob Skilton medalist, particularly in the years where, you know, the Swans were probably going through those rebuild years.
18 and 20?
Yep. Had an absolute amazing influence of the footy club.
One thing I just want you to have a think about, we'll get into some of the bigger picture stuff, and I'd love to get you involved as well. The out-of-bound issues that we're having, they're quite weird in this competition at the moment. Let's head down into the rooms. Poppy Penny's down there. Poppy?
Yeah, they're just making their way into the rooms now, forming a circle in the middle of the rooms. Friends and family in here too. Loads of excitement. We're just waiting for them all to circle up. Really nice to see Harry Cunningham in this huddle as everybody comes in. Of course, that concussion early in the first quarter. But here are the Swans. They're circling up, ready to sing the song after a great win over Essendon.
Back downstairs with Poppy in just a moment and grab one of the Sydney Swans. Have a chat with them for you after what has been just a wonderful start for the season. Played 3, won 3. The Bombers with their first loss. Now played 2, won 2 in season 2024. Richmond next stop for the Swans at the MCG. That's on Sunday. The Bombers are off to the Docklands on Saturday to take on St Kilda. Just repeating the results earlier tonight. Melbourne by 55 over the Hawks, and the day began with Fremantle in the afternoon beating North Melbourne by 26 points. Sydney against Essendon, 19-17, 131 to Essendon's 15-11, 101. If you'd like to get in touch with us, give us your thoughts, let us know, 0437 774 774. Send us a text, 0437 774 774. Live footy on ABC Sport. Let's head back down into the rooms. Poppy.
Just with Hayden McLean, just getting the headphones on him at the moment. Still very loud down here in the Sydney rooms. Hayden, 2 goals, 2 for you tonight. 3-zip, how does that feel?
Yeah, no, it's very good. I think they came out fighting at the start and probably took us by surprise, but credit to the boys, we fought back and, you know, we got back to what we wanted to do the first couple of weeks.
There was a bit of sort of aggression in the first quarter. It was pretty spicy that first half. How did you guys go about harnessing some of that energy?
Yeah, exactly. They came out fighting and we just wanted to, you know, hit them hard at the ball and just play our contest, our game, and not get sucked in. But I think to the credit to the boys, we just got back to work and I think we tried to win that contest back.
That early injury to Harry Cunningham, how do you guys regroup and reset after something like that? There was a big stoppage in play. Of course, you see one of your teammates going off on the stretcher. How do you guys regroup from that?
Yeah, I think especially Harry, he's the most loved bloke at the club. You can probably see by the reaction of the boys, he's a loved one here. And it was almost just that, I guess, wake-up call for us. Let's get back at them. That's not acceptable what would happen, and we just got to go back and try hard.
One thing I noticed sitting on the boundary is Callum Mills is on the bench, really vocal, talking to you guys all game. What is he providing? What does he give in that role? Yeah,
no, he's been very good on the bench. His composure on the bench as well, and just that leadership. That's why he's our captain, and he's doing it in other ways at the moment. Why he can't be out there, but it's just that composure, and he's just so intelligent, and he's just working us really well down there.
Looking for a job in the coach's box after he finishes playing, maybe. I'm going to throw you upstairs, Hayden McLean, to Clint Wheeldon, Daniel Garb, Callum Sinclair and Joel Patfull.
Hayden, Cal Sinclair here, mate. Hope you're going well. But, mate, I just want to start off, mate, absolutely wrapped for you, mate, with how your football's going. You know, signing a 4-year deal with the footy club. But you must just be over the moon, particularly with the journey you've had and how hard it was to break into the AFL, mate. But from me, congratulations, but maybe just your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's been a different road and one that I probably appreciate and kept me hungry. I know we always had chats of just keep fighting and finding your way in other ways you can do. And I think I'm trying to keep fighting every day, but it's just good to be able to play out there each week and have the confidence in the club that I can do it.
Hayden, Daniel Garb here. Talk us through the brotherhood between the three young key forwards. I mean, Buddy was the main man there for so long. It was obviously time for him to bid farewell. Now it's the young brigade down there, yourself, Joel Amartey and Logan McDonald. Talk us through that bond between the three of you.
Yeah, no, we love playing together. I think you can probably see it out there. We're just having fun. It almost feels like, I think I've said it before, I played juniors with Joel and it almost feels back to that. We've just sort of got that synergy together. We're having fun during the week. We always have competitions and off-field we're good mates. So I think I'm just really loving our time together, us three, and hopefully continue to keep playing some good footy.
Mate, talk to us about Brodie Grundy and I guess his influence on the footy club since he's come. I think we all know what he's giving you guys off on the field, but it seems like off-field he's having a real leadership role within the group.
Yeah, exactly. It's on and off-field with him. You can just see what he does each week for our team and to have him come in and take a big load of the ruck and allow me to go forward and help him out. And I just really love connecting with him and being that almost partnership with him at the moment. It's just fun and we can play our footy, but as you said, he's off-field. He's just intelligent. He's smart. He's had a lot of experience, ups and downs, so he's really inflicting that on us and it's been super.
Hayden, Clint Wilden here. You've touched on it before, but I just wanted to get your thoughts more on the Peter Wright incident with Harry Cunningham. Did you see it? What did you make of it?
Yeah, I was on the bench at the time. I didn't see it, and I know it was a high ball in a contest, and I'm sure they'll have a very good look at it.
How concerned were you immediately when we saw what happened to Harry?
Yeah, no, I was actually very concerned, just the way he sort of froze up on the ground. You hate seeing that, no matter who it is. And as I said before, Harry's a loved one of the club, and to see him hurting like that and froze up like that, it was pretty scary, to be honest.
Talk us through the first, what was it, maybe 20 minutes or so? Yeah. The Bombers had 2 goals on the board before you touched the football. Were there any nerves out there, or were you confident you could get it done? What was it like out there in Swans colours at that time?
Yeah, no, I think we're composed. I think we've shown the last couple of weeks, if teams get a run, we know we can get it back on our terms. We just had to find out a way to, and they kick 2 quick ones, but you still feel like you're in control, and that's sort of the confidence that we have in each other, that we know if they kick 2, 3, 4, it doesn't matter. We know we can get it back on our terms.
A couple of outrageous goals tonight, but 2 big ones for yourself. One that was much needed to bring you within 4 points in that first quarter, but to go back and kick a goal after the siren, as you did, and give Sydney a 23-point lead at three-quarter time, what was running through your mind then?
No, I've never actually kicked one after the siren. You sort of think a bit too much, I think, with the extra time, but Haynes is always there in my corner, and he just said, you're the best set shot at the club, so it gives me that confidence, and to go back and kick that was a boost of energy, and to get into half time with that, it was super.
Do you feel that at the moment you've probably got a couple of the, very good players, but almost players at the peak of this competition? What we've seen Errol Goulden do, what we've seen Isaac Heaney do, they're as good as anyone running around right now. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And you keep looking, Chad's been dominant, and you got Errol, Haynes, Rowie did a massive role this week, and last week he's contested possession, and then you got 4-line Pat Lod. There's just blokes across the ground, and I think this is probably the most talented group I've played with, but also we get to work and we do play that system. No one's trying to be selfish. It's still a team footy.
Said selfishness, but there's one thing Hayden is. He's very hungry in front of goals. You don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about that. But Hayden, in terms of your own game, mate, what are your areas at the moment that you're just continuing to improve on, and what's the focus been from the coaches in regards to not only yourself but maybe the team? Where can your team get better?
Yeah, no, I think it's just still our system first, and I think tonight our offense was good at the start, but our defense wasn't quite there, and it's just building that connection and trust. And then just for myself, it's just continuing to work on my forward craft, launching at the ball like I sort of did tonight, and just if I mark it, I mark it. If not, it's not letting them mark it. And because we've got so many smalls and dangerous players around us, so if we can bring it to ground, that's a plus.
Outstanding work tonight. Well done, Hayden. We appreciate your time. Congratulations. You're 3-0 and the Tigers are next. Well done.
Beautiful. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Hayden McLean downstairs kicked a couple tonight. He did.
Such an important player for the Swans.
Massive.
They struggled last season with the ruck. There's no denying that. Tom Hickey he was trying hard, but unfortunately got beaten a few too many times. So Grundy comes in. But having that second ruck who can also play forward and take a grab, be a genuine part of the key forward brigade, but you're so confident with him as the second ruck. There aren't too many teams that have that in the AFL. It's a luxury for John Longmire, isn't it, Joel?
Well, yeah, like you said, it's becoming more and more important as well. It's that player that can pinch hit in the ruck, go forward, and be a genuine dangerous presence. So he's shown it time and time again. He can kick multiple goals, and he's becoming that player that they can lean on. And, that long to the goal square, he provides a contest, and everyone knows where it's going to go. You can get Papley at the ground of the ball and go from there. So very important player.
And one thing to remember, he's extremely, extremely fit. So I think, back on your point, having that player that can play forward and also go on the ruck, rucks are generally prone to get injured. So someone like him, if you need him to do 4 quarters, he can do it. I think in his 2K, he ran like a 6.15, and he's about 6'5". So big tank on him, and he is a very, very serviceable ruckman when he has to be.
He's a great shot at goal as well, actually.
It's his favourite term, serviceable.
I was just going to say, he's actually a really good shot at goal as well. So if he gets a shot, he genuinely, most of the time, he's going to put it through. He's really solid, doesn't waste too many out forward.
Gets his shots on goal. It's a key thing as a forward.
Who's doing the votes tonight, by the way?
I'll happily do them.
You don't have to do them straight away. I'm just curious to know whether they'd be serviceable or whether they'd be club champion like goal, depending on which way we went. A couple of texts to get through, 0437 774 774. If you'd like to chat to us, Clint Wilden alongside Daniel Garb, Cal Sinclair and Joel Patfull with you. Go the Swannies, says Marcus G. What a beauty. Heaney was a gun. You bet he was, as we were told from Garby. 32 touches tonight, 1 goal, 1. Had 4 tackles as well, 4 inside 50s and 6 marks. Do let us know, by the way, what your name is when you send us a text, 0437 774 774. Go Hawks. Thanks, guys, for another intense call. It's a great game, ours. It certainly is. And don't forget Gaff as a contender for a send-off rule. Yes, that's true. Gaff on Brayshaw. That's a very, very good call. I would have no issues if there was a send-off or a red card for that sort of incident. I'm still not convinced about what we saw with Peter Wright, and I know it will come up again, whether or not there should be a straight send-off. I think there's too many variables in that at this point in time, but for out-and-out violent conduct, no problems. Let us know where you happen to be, 0437 774 774. I threw this up, and I'd really be keen. People who've watched the last, it's only 3 rounds now, opening round and rounds 1 and 2. I'm bewildered by something that we might see maybe once or twice a season. We've seen it now off the top of my head 3 times already. Jake Waterman was definitely out of bounds. He was almost in the River Torrens for West Coast in their opening game against Port. Just the other night, Jack Higgins kicks a goal from way outside the boundary. Remarkable how far he was out. And tonight we saw Langford took a mark that wasn't even close. That was absolutely over the boundary, and it led to a Bombers goal. They put it inside forward 50, and Gresham eventually kicked the goal. So we've seen, I would say, 3 horrendous out of bounds in the space of 3 rounds of football. Have the boundary umpires changed where they're standing, where they're supposed to be standing? Because they're the only people who can make that decision. The field umpire's not allowed to be involved in that, just like with scores unless they're asked otherwise. But how do we have this weird situation at the moment where we've had these 3 horrendous calls in the space of 3 rounds of footy? I can't work it out.
Well, yeah, I don't think you can explain it, really. It's just one of those things that for some reason there's been a few in a row that have been glaringly obvious. I mean, the Higgins one, obviously, because that was a crucial goal, and there was actually 3 umpires within distance there to see. And tonight as well, there's 2 umpires within earshot. So they should be able to see these things, but it seems obvious to us to watch. But I don't know, there's no explanation for mine, nothing I can think of.
I mean, it has to be the whole ball. So maybe umpires are pondering, was it the whole ball that was out? The Higgins one I thought might have been just a little millimetre of the ball still on that line potentially. No. The other 2 were... I thought that one might have been a little bit close. The other 2 were ridiculous. I mean, Waterman's and tonight, I mean, Langford we could see from where we are. We've got a pretty good view. But, I mean, the umpire should see that one. So that was a bad mistake, but the Swans got past it in the end.
I'm not going to sit here and allow our umpires of our great game be criticised like this.
They all make mistakes.
From you 3. I just think it's a disgrace. Everyone is human. They make mistakes. So we're all not perfect.
No, and that's my point, in that I'm wondering if there has been randomly to have something... Ben Cameron, hello to Ben's favourite line is, the trend is your friend. The trend here is not your friend. We have seen something quite weird. have they changed something in where they're told to stand? Because to get 3 calls, I think they were all shockers. But even 2 out of 3, when Meatloaf say 2 out of 3 ain't bad, 2 out of 3 were bad. They were genuinely horrendous. And so I'm wondering if there's something to happen or whether it's just a quirk of the system. Let us know your thoughts, 0437 774
Do you think maybe if that part of the play ends in a goal, the captain has the opportunity to sit there and go before it goes back to the centre bounce or whatever. They go, nah, hold. I want that reviewed. But hard to do in the moment, but it has to kind of be in that passage of play.
Mick Malthouse, after I listened to Sports Talk on ABC Perth this morning, I caught up with the fact that our Saturday AFL program had Mick Malthouse in his call saying there should be, under these circumstances, like we see in the NFL, potentially a captain's call, where the captain can go under it, as you say, an example like that, where a goal, where the game stops, you can actually go, I want you to look at that in the build-up of the play. Mm-hmm. I don't want to see a captain's call in the middle of play, but in something that leads to a genuine stoppage like a goal, we're prepared to check whether or not it's brushed someone's fingertips, whether it's brushed the post. With something like that, should you be allowed to check it in the build-up to the play?
To counter my point, but then where does it stop? I can sit there and go, oh, well, I thought that was holding the ball, so let's go back and play.
One a game.
Okay. 1 a quarter maybe, I don't know, But you know what I mean? I want to go back and play. Actually, that was holding the ball. That was actually high. Like, I just think when you start introducing these things, it's a little bit, I don't know, just get a little bit out of hand.
Merit in that. Let's switch to Zach Merritt's team if we can. I was fascinated coming into this game to see where the Bombers were at. Like, they're one of these teams, along with probably St Kilda, the Bulldogs, maybe Gold Coast and Adelaide, middle-of-the-ranked teams who might jump up and make the 8. If they drop below expectations, pressure can build. Not Gold Coast, of course, because they've got a new coach, and the Bombers are in the infancy under Brad Scott as well. But they need to start moving in the right direction. It's hard to know what they are going to be this season, Essendon. They could be a final side. They could drop below that. On tonight's performance, Joel, and it's very early stages, where are they at for you? What might they be in 2024, Essendon?
Well, unfortunately, I think we saw both sides tonight. We saw the great pressure, the in-your-face, and the physicality that looked like they were the team that was going to take the next step. But then we saw the other side where there was open space, running freely through the corridor, hitting targets inside 50. So, I mean, off the back of tonight, I'd be hesitant to say they're a final 8 team. So I think they're going to be around that, 12 to 8. If they can continue to build on that style of footy that they played for periods tonight, they should be a genuine contender to play finals. But I think off the back of tonight, they're probably going to be in that, middle of the run.
I think it's 50-50 for them, to be honest. I don't know how... I don't know about their depth. I think compared to someone like the Swans, probably be unfair to compare them to the Swans, to be honest, with those lists. But look, to their credit, they probably played a half of good footy tonight. I probably thought the second half, they probably just had moments where they kind of hung in there a little bit. But I think what the Essendon fans probably would want to see is a real competitive effort all the way through to that 4 quarters. But towards the end there, they just got completely outrun. So it's going to be interesting to see what I agree with the Garbs, what the rest of the year has in store for them.
Hard to do against Sydney, though, who seem to have some of their stars in career best form. Like, Heaney's never started a season like this. He's an all-Australian forward, but the way he's playing in the midfield is amazing. Warner, we know how good he is, but his season has been incredible to start. Goulden's just carried on from last year. And then Tom Papley, I mean, immense in the first 3 rounds as well. So some of their biggest names seem to all be in a purple patch to start the season.
Yeah, you're right. And Heaney's playing footy that we haven't seen him play before. He's moved into that midfield role and really taken on board. Like we were talking about this before about he was almost the get-out that you'd have to put him forward because you needed the goal, but they've stuck with him in the midfield, and he's really been that player that I think everyone thought he could be, but he hasn't quite got there. So if he can continue to play that sort of footy with Warner, with Goulden, they're going to be really hard to beat this year.
So what do they do, though, when you've got the likes of, and you mentioned it, Parker to come back, Adams, who they brought into the club, and I know he's a bit further down the track, but Mills as well. There's some absolute guns they have to fit into the Sydney side.
I'll be really disappointed if they take Isaac out of the midfield and put him up forward. that's one thing for me. I'd be really disappointed if they did that, because probably for a long time they just kind of not necessarily refused to play him in the midfield, but they obviously prioritised, Parker, Rowbottom, Mills, Josh Kennedy there for a long period of time, and they might have criticised Isaac for a little bit at kind of his strength and his stoppage craft. Now he's got the opportunity to get a lot more reps out there. You see what he's delivering. So my view is he should have been playing in the midfield 5 years ago, and he should have been the Bontempelli and Patrick Cripps of the Sydney Swans.
This was live footy on ABC Sport. We're now in the wrap-up. Sydney beating Essendon 19-17, 131 to Essendon's 15-11, 101 in front of nearly 35,000 fans. The two other games today, Fremantle by 26 points over North Melbourne, and Melbourne by 55 over the Hawks. Tomorrow, it's the Bulldogs and the Suns, Richmond against Port, and West Coast versus GWS to wrap things up.
I think Mills will be that jack of all trades again. Longmire just likes to move him all over the ground wherever he needs him, and he seems to do a pretty good job there. Parker, I think he will play half forward predominantly. You could see he started a couple of practice games at half forward. The legs are starting to go a little bit, and they've got so many options that it seems like being the position for him. Adams came here to play on ball, though. So he will definitely get a run in there at times, and probably going to have to move a Chad Warner to start some quarters at half forward. He did that in a practice game or two as well. So I guess it's a benefit, right, to have that many options. And you're going to have injuries too, of course, and suspensions.
It's tough for Adams if he moved away from Collingwood knowing that he wanted more midfield minutes, and now finds himself in a situation where somehow, how do they force him into this team at the moment?
As you know, Joel, it changes very quickly. There'll be injuries, there'll be this and that. Form kicks in. But right now, yeah, you're right. It's very, very hard. I think what Parker does have up his sleeve, he's very, very good overhead. Yeah. He does know where the goals are. But it is going to be... But at the core of it, he is a midfielder. He is that hustle and bustle in there. Probably him and James Rowbottom are probably going at it at the moment, and Rowie seems to be doing the jobs on, on the merits out there. He's had, another 12 tackles tonight or whatever he had. But it's going to be interesting to see how Parker kind of goes probably this season. I think, he reminds me a little bit of that Matt Priddis kind of type. The back end kind of comes pretty quickly with that kind of type, if that makes sense. So massive call, and you never write off a champion like he's been. But it's going to be hard to not play Heaney, Warner and Gordon in the midfield.
Well, not when they're playing like this. I mean, that midfield is as dynamic a midfield as we've seen for a while. And the way they're moving together in there is actually something really special. And if they build on that could be a midfield that can play for the next, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. You know what I mean? So to bring someone like even Adams into that, I think they'll supplement that midfield. I think they've got the runs on the board these first 3 weeks. And to me, that's their core midfield moving forward. Yeah.
Before we go through the controversial moment of the night, let's get the votes. So we can't get sidetracked as I often do get.
Well, these votes certainly aren't for serviceable players, guys. They're for they're definitely the superstars of the game. Very much stepped up tonight. But one vote goes to Chad Warner. I thought 28 touches, 2 goals was absolutely superb. I mentioned his change of direction tonight, really opened up the game. 2 votes, Garb's man, Tom Papley, 4 goals, 24 touches, just had an absolute, particularly kicking goals at crucial parts of the game to really actually build the Swans' momentum. But we've spoken about him all night. I think the 3 votes goes to Isaac Heaney, 32 touches, 1 goal, 4 tackles, 6 marks, 8 clearances, had an absolute astounding game, particularly early. He really got them going, and he's had an absolute stellar start to the season. And I'm just... I'm sure the Swans won't care what I say, but I really hope they just keep pursuing with him in the midfield, because he's an absolute superstar. And like I said, he should be the Patrick Cripps of the Sydney Swans.
And speaking of their midfield, the top 3 possession winners, Heaney with 32, this is for Sydney, Chad Warner with 28, Errol Goulden with 24, and then Papley with 24, as you said. But the metres gained, Heaney 483, Chad Warner 520, and Goulden 481. Peter Wright... He's going to face scrutiny from the match review officer for his hit on Cunningham that left Cunningham, at first knocked out, then had to be stretched off and then out of the game. So the matrix looks like this. It will be careless because I don't think it was intentional. He was just trying to originally go for the football. I think it will be, and this will go on what the Swans medical officer says, but I think it will be a severe impact, because it has meant that Cunningham has been knocked out and then had to come off the ground and could not continue. It is obviously high because he's made contact with his head, with his arm as he's protected himself. So that's 3 or more matches and off to the tribunal if the MRO decides that he has a case to answer. So there'll be a bit here, and I think with what we saw last year from Laura Kane over her decision to send what was originally cleared by the MRO, the smother by Maynard on Brayshaw, to the tribunal, then that will certainly be looked at and be looked at really closely. I'll be interested to see whether or not the tribunal in this case says you've got the right to protect yourself and therefore it's okay, or whether by turning and bracing, which he has done, that leaves him open for suspension. It's going to have I reckon, a big say in where we view these incidents for the rest of this year.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think that's the exact course that it will take. I think he's looking at 3 weeks. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I think that's based off, what they've set for this year and where things are going. Contact with the head, left the ground, protected himself. He's going to be in a bit of trouble.
If he gets 3 weeks, that's a big out for Essendon.
Massive.
It is. Massive out for Essendon because they're one team in the competition that needs momentum in the start of the season. They've got the heat on them. As you said, Garbs, throughout the call, they need to make some inroads. They need to make some progress. They need to at least compete to kind of get in the finals and actually show something. But I think Peter Wright potentially out for 3 weeks is not going to help.
It's the biggest issue in the game, concussion, by a long, long way, and you've got to protect the head. There are just far too many incidents of CTE emerging in the sport and players retiring early and lives being ruined. It's the biggest threat to Australian rules football, and they've got to keep clamping down on it at the AFL, and they are. And that is why, even though a lot of people will say split second, it's hard for Peter Wright to judge what he wants to do there. We all agree with that.
Yep.
But players simply have to give a duty of care to their opponents. He left the ground. Yes, it was hard to change direction in that instance, but he's going to probably get 3 weeks or so because of the situation that the game faces.
Just to play the other side, is there duty of care for Cunningham coming back with the flight and putting himself in a vulnerable position? Where does that stand in duty of care and protecting the player?
That's a really good point. And I think we're starting to actually, once upon a time, that would have been highlighted by everyone, and now we're starting to think maybe you shouldn't be putting yourself in that position because we have seen so many careers ended by players who were stupidly courageous.
Exactly.
So I think but again, we have to move these things we think, and then we slowly have to move as a game forward. Right now, like again last year, I was defending Maynard for his smother because I thought, well, under the rules of the game, he hasn't done anything wrong, and so that shifts slightly now. I think that's a point too that will have to shift as well because we've seen it all the time.
It's a part of our game that has been celebrated, the courageous act, running back with the flight, but maybe that's a shift in where everything's going and a duty of care to yourself to not put yourself in that position.
Outstanding from you. Well done, Joel Paffel. More than serviceable from you. Enjoyed being with you this evening here at the SCG. Garby, it was great to call a game with you. I really enjoyed it.
I did work experience with you at Channel 10 Clint Wealden many years ago when I was in high school and you were starting out as a young sports reporter. And here we are commentating AFL football together. It's a great thrill for me.
Well, you know what is frightening? The number of people who have said that along the way. It makes me feel really old, which I am, and that's okay. Great to work with Poppy Penny again and to Mick at the back of the box. Outstanding. Full-time Sydney by 30 points. They're 3-0, beating the Bombers 19-17 to 15-11. The other games, Freo by 26 over North, Melbourne by 55 over the Hawks. Live footy on ABC Sport continues tomorrow. They'll set up through Merritt, kicks inside, forward 50, one-on-one battle at the top of the goal square. Umpire spots a free kick going Essendon's way. Nick Cox looking for his first goal of 2024 from no more than 20 out. He puts it through. It's all Essendon in the opening 3 minutes at the SCG.
Now they can work it up the wing through Durham. The Bombers, that's a big hit. Peter Wright on Harry Cunningham, and Cunningham hasn't moved. And the crowd does not like that. This could be a big story.
Is he in trouble right now?
I think he is in trouble. I think he's going to get it at least a week or two.
Threw it on the boot towards centre-half forward. Gresham was able to work it away to the side to Setterfield. Now to Langford, who snaps around the body from 48 out. That's a ripper for his seconds. So here is Papley. It'll be his first of the day. And he sneaks it in the right hand upright Tom Papley puts his name on the goal kickers list. And Sydney give themselves just a little bit of breathing space.
Paulville sends it up to Langford, who was marked just inside the boundary line. Swans fans thought it had gone over. Umpires say play on. Cornwell to Stringer, sweeping handball to Gresham, who kicks one from the goal square. Oh, it was way over.
Way over.
He's marked it way over. Never mind running over.
Look at the crowd, they're nuts.
James Jordan roved it, kicked to the top of the square. Hayward flew. Hayward is hurt as he hits the ground. Falls to McInerney, soccers it. And then Amati's kicked it with the back of his heel and it's through for a goal.
To give them back the lead, Todd Goldstein kicked 157 goals for North Melbourne, while for the Bombers, he's now got his first. And Essendon are back in front. Their leaders 4 points. Working forward, Corey Warner. Now on in turn to Gordon from 51 out. It's bouncing, it's through. That is simply sensational. As the Swans, they put their lead out again.
But Jordan was there to help. Now McInerney, he's got that many options. He finds Blakey, the cult hero of Sydney. The man they call the Lizard. They love him as much as any other.
He put it out in front of Grundy, couldn't mark, got a hand pass away. Hayward will snap for another one. Will Hayward's got 3.
Happily looking for his fourth, and perhaps the sealer. No man celebrates more at Sydney than Tom Papley, and he deserves it tonight.
Well, Stills away then from Heppel defensively. Here's Chad Warner again. That's the football. Oh, icing on the cake. Chad Warner gets his second. It's party time at the SCG now.
Another big win for Sydney. 3 and zip to start the season. And once again, a big talking point is a Sydney Swans start to the season.
When you need to get out of the car, but you can't pull yourself away from what's happening on ABC Radio, break free with the ABC Listen app. It goes with you, so you don't miss a thing. Download the free ABC Listen app today.
ABC Sport Digital Radio, your home of conversations.
Adam Gilchrist is here today. Many would say that Adam is the greatest wicketkeeper and batsman to grace the sport of cricket. Adam enjoyed an almost fairy tale life, or has done so far anyway. He grew up in a loving family, he married his high school sweetheart, and he got to play his chosen sport at the highest level for Australia. He's often an openly emotional man, and he's known as one of the truly lovely guys in the game, which makes it all the more surprising that he's received, well, much more than his fair share of bad behaviour and bitchiness from cricket fans over the years. Adam's autobiography is simply called True Colours. Adam Gilchrist, lovely to have you in today.
Nice to be here, Richard. Thank you.
It's a lovely book. It's nice. It's really warm and honest and open. Can I just read part of the dedication here?
Sure.
You dedicate it to your family, to Mel, your wife, and to your kids. I love this bit about your kids. Harry, Annie and Archie, you make life fun for us. Thanks, too, for staying in your seats on the planes. Obviously, there's been a struggle with that over the years. The hard work is over now. Time for some serious fun. I love you, Dad. How nice is that? You have more time for the kids now.
Yeah, very much so. That's obviously... as the family grew, travelling life and life on the road as a professional cricketer became a little bit more challenging and testing and a bit more difficult, and more difficult indeed walking out the door and saying goodbye to them when they didn't travel. But that line about staying in their seats, they've been fantastic. They really have been a real pleasure to be carrying around and dragging around the world. You watch on with interest other people with children on planes, and some are great and some aren't so great. Fortunately, ours were fantastic, and they stayed to their seats. We weren't chasing them up and down the aisles. But
that's nice, because when you get on a plane, you get a lot of attention. Oh, is Adam Gilchrist? It doesn't really. It's not too good if you're having to say, "Well, you can sit down. Well, you behave yourself." Yeah.
I think you're right. Whether it's on a plane or wherever it is in public places, restaurants or buses or whatever it may be, you do feel that. You never expect to feel eyes on you and being the focus of people who you don't know's attention. You never expect that. You understand that it comes with the territory of being an Australian cricketer and a public sort of profile. But, it was always a delicate balance trying to discipline the kids in front of a whole gallery of people watching on.
How about yourself? I was talking to Wayne Bennett recently, the former coach of the Brisbane Broncos and coach of St George Illawarra. I happened to be getting on a plane one day at the same moment as he and the Broncos were getting on the plane, and I was thinking to myself, "Oh, I hope I don't have to share a seat, sit next to a Bronco because they're so big, But just seeing the faces of people on the plane, grown men, businessmen who wouldn't look twice at you, they all look like a bunch of 5-year-olds who've been given too much cordial. There's obviously a low-level hysteria that surrounds successful sports people. I just wonder how you manage that yourself, Adam.
Well, you're right, and anyone that's read the book or probably knows me a little bit, and I self-confess, I'm as big a stargazer as anyone. So it's been interesting learning to not deal with it, but just becoming familiar with that concept of just knowing people, an awareness that people are, looking at you, observing. And I think over time the very first time someone notices you, and says, "Oh, aren't you that cricketer?" You're that thrilled. How cool's this? I must be going all right. And, probably get the massive big head out of it. And then slowly but surely over time, I think I started to become a little bit unaware of it or less aware of it. And
have you ever been confused for someone else?
Very much so. There was one particular time that was a little bit... I was in an airport in Adelaide. I've been doing a sponsors function all day, sort of a meet and greet, chatting with customers and clients, and sort of had the game face on, the pleasant... it was a really nice day, but it was pretty intense, a lot of handshaking, a lot of smiling, a lot of small talk. And I got to the airport